about it was that it's a smaller tournament. Just 4 teams make the conference tournament in the Ivy League. And thus, it wasn't being held in some major arena in some, neutral spot. It was held on campus in Harvard. And Harvard was doing its part to shut things down and sending kids home for the time being. And thus, no tournament. Because if it's on campus, that's what they're doing. That's what they're going to do, no tournament. And everyone was like, well, what are you doing? Now, you basically have something that is now totally acceptable. And the sports world, thankfully, taking the lead, and I think that has shaken this entire country, snapped our lapels to stand up and take notice. That we all have to do our part. Sports world, the entire culture world, pop culture world, we're all going to do our part to practice smart social distancing and take care of what we need to take care of in our world, so community-wise, there's less of a spread and we can spread things out and not threaten our healthcare industry. That said, I'm seeing online right now, and I will say this with all due respect to the people that attended the Post Malone concert in Denver, Colorado. To use the science to help us grasp what to do and how to go about things and how to stay calm. If we have the knowledge and we have the power within ourselves to do what we need to do to all get through this and get back to normal and make sure that the Masters is just postponed and not canceled. And then when we all can get back to the sports world, who knows when? All enjoy it with the people that we love. Maybe your parents. How many people sit around the television set generationally enjoy the Masters? I think many of us do. Let's make sure we can do that so the elderly don't get sick, don't have to go to the hospital, and don't die from this thing. So everybody who went to the Post Malone concert, because I think we do broadcast on a radio station in the Denver area, wake up, get a clue, stay home. Don't go into an arena and pack it. And I don't understand it. Hasn't the Colorado governor said you shouldn't be doing this? I don't understand it. Now then, for anybody out there who's saying, well, the workers in the Pepsi Center need the money. Totally get it. Totally understand it. Hopefully, our leaders on Capitol Hill are going to pass something sensible enough to address the issue of people who will lose hourly wages due to this coronavirus. That people who have an issue making ends meet because these arenas are going to be shut down for sporting events and pop culture events. Hopefully that gets fixed. In the meantime, folks like Kevin Love, I tip my cap to you, sir. I tip my cap to this all-star player and all-star human being who donated $100,000 to the workers in Cleveland, Ohio, who work the arena for the Cleveland Cavalier games. And $100,000 is nice. through the Kevin Love Fund in support of the Cavs arena and support staff that have a sudden life shift due to the suspension of the NBA season. I'm reading from his Instagram post, a wonderful picture of him taking a selfie with a bunch of hard hats on the floor of the arena. $100,000 is a wonderful commitment from him. We need more. He needs more support. Dan Gilbert, where are you, bud? Step up. Everybody's got to do it. All the teams got to do that. Mark Cuban's already done that. All teams have to do that. Let's step up. Let's not forget these folks. You got to remember these people. These are the people that are going to lose their wages and need those wages to make ends meet. Do you know who's freaking out right now? All the folks who work in Dodger Stadium, Angel Stadium. All the people that are going to work the Rose Bowl for concerts that are coming that I can't see how they're going to still do it. Those people are all freaking out right now because they've been planning on that April, May, and June money. Everybody's got to step up in the sports world to make sure that these people make ends meet. Because we can't have Post Malone concerts now, people. You can't go to them. You may enjoy it, and you may think nobody you know is sick, and nobody you know that they know is sick. You don't know if you're sick. That's the whole idea about this. And as they're ramping up testing, and I'm hearing that testing is coming in a much more significant way by hopefully next week because we're so woefully unprepared and behind the eight ball here. Friends of mine who are in the healthcare industry are saying you're going to notice a difference soon. Thank God. Because we need to know who has it and who doesn't. And so many of you people, I went to the Post Malone concert last night. You may have it. You may have it. You don't know. Now you're walking around with it. You go and hug your mom, hug your dad. Guess what? Come on. Until we know, we don't know. And that's why later on, top of hour 3, Dr. Sanjay Gupta of CNN will join us to give us the latest on what we know. And that'll be an hour before the president's news conference. In the sports world, Jay Bilas was on 2 days ago. That's how crazy this thing is, as we all know. 5 minutes is like 5 years worth of news cycle. So we talked to Jay the other day. He's like, you know what? I trust the NCAA to do the right thing. Not when it comes to paying players. Not when it comes to that. But when it comes to actually public health and the health of the players, I trust them to do the right thing. And so he's back on now. He was, I guess, in an arena yesterday, wasn't he? Getting set to do an ACC tournament.
I think he was in Greensboro, yeah.
So he'll walk us through what happened yesterday. Tom Izzo, earlier in the week, was like, all right, maybe we'll do it without fans. And then he wasn't so sure. Big Ten canceled their tournament. Tom Izzo will join us here. Normally, he'd be getting his team ready for a potential net cutting in the conference tournament and then in the big dance. So he will join us, one of my favorite people. And then Jeff Van Gundy, I guess we'll find out what his thoughts are as the NBA has hit the pause button for at least 30 days. And I'd love to talk to you. Because I'm sure many of you out there are fearful. Many of you out there are nervous and concerned. And we're here to help you through all that best we can. To be here, and then we're starting to decide, what is a show like this going to be about, right? When there's no live sports. Well, sports can still all bring us together. I just don't know if I'm ready to have those types of conversations. There's still a lot going on. Again, the Masters just canceled or postponed the tournament a half an hour ago, right? About 45 minutes ago?
Yeah, right before we got in today.
So things are changing, and we're going to, decide by next week what the show is going to be. There's a lot of conversation about that, about what do sports shows do right now. Well, we're a life show. That's the way I'll look at it. And we'll do that down the road. But I'm more than happy to have a conversation with any of you at 844-204-RICH about anything that might be on your mind. And, I know people who know Post Malone.
Ryan Phillippe's been in here a bunch.
I know. And yeah. Hey, Post, stop. We'll see you soon. We'll see you soon. It looks like the president of Brazil has it. It looks like the first lady of Canada has it. And again, for 80, 90% of us who get it, won't need any hospitalization. It's mild.
Charles Barkley is on self-containment.
Right. I mean, and I get it. that people are nervous about it. There was a run in supermarkets here yesterday in Los Angeles, California. One supermarket chain closed down for fear of the coronavirus, like shut its doors.
Yeah,
so we all just have to remain calm.
Empty.
Okay, let's remain calm and get through it together collectively, and trust each other. How about that? Jay Bilas is first up as we talk about what his day was like yesterday. Tom Izzo, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, and Jeff Van Gundy here on this unique, to say the least, Friday edition of the Rich Eisen Show here on this radio station. And if you want to watch us, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Back with more in a moment. Jay Bilas in particular. The Honda Passport, folks. I know a lot of folks, certainly here in the Los Angeles area, that we're going to fly somewhere for spring break. Not anymore. And I know that's difficult for the airline industry and the travel industry, but there are still beautiful places, maybe in your area, that you can just hop in the car and drive. And that's where the Honda Passport comes in handy. You know, driving kids all over the place in town and maybe making sure that they get in the outdoors and breathe some nice fresh air. Passport's a perfect idea for all of that. And it can seat for up to, 8 premium features throughout, like the one-touch second row seats for easy access to the third row. Capable on almost any terrain with available all-wheel drive. The underfloor storage allows you to stow away the tools you need for those springtime trips that maybe you're still planning to make in a great part of your beautiful area and state. So get to your local Honda dealer and check out the 2020 Passport right now. Tell them the Rich Eisen Show sent you. Hello, YouTube audience. How are you? 844-204. Oh, we had audio issues at the top of our show?
We
again?
did. We had some audio issues, but it's all good now.
Oh, we're good? We're all fixed?
Yeah, we're good now.
All good now.
Okay. Hey, this is what, week one of us doing all
Still
this stuff?
a work in progress.
We're working on it, everybody, and we appreciate your patience. We appreciate your patience here. But should we tweet out again just in case people are like, there's audio issues, I'm tuning out? Should we do that again?
Yeah, I'll post it again.
All right. Post it again, and we'll do that. All right. Do you want to involve our audience on our chat page?
Sure. I mean, we have phone calls too. If
I love that. Which is terrific. So,
after.
you know what? The question is, what poll question can we possibly do today, right?
I mean, what show are you going to binge while you're on quarantine?
I'll tell you what, man. You know what went down yesterday in my household?
What's that?
Because it's, again,
pouring down rain.
It's pouring down. It's just crazy. And you say that there's there's a website that says there's a large opportunity for an earthquake out here too?
This weekend, percentages are very high for earthquake in Los Angeles, Southern California.
So when it rains here, people just feel out of sorts anyway. Here in Southern California, normally sunny Southern California. A lot of Lego going down in the household right now.
A lot of Lego?
A lot of Lego.
We started watching that McMillions documentary.
Yeah, tell me about that.
We got episode 1. So apparently in the late 90s, early 2000s,
I've heard a lot about this.
There was a giant scale. You remember the Monopoly game at McDonald's?
Yeah, you'd pull it off the side of the cup. And
apparently all the people who won did not do so on the up and up. The big prizes, the $1 million prizes, the trips, the cars, the boats.
What do you mean they didn't do it on the up and up?
The massive cheating scandal, Astro style.
So the McDonald's was in on it, you're saying?
The market at the end of the first episode, spoiler alert, they announced that the head of the marketing company was in on it. He was this guy called Uncle Jerry. He was the head of security for the Simon advertising company. Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I got to tune into that.
And one episode in, it's awesome. The main dude, the main FBI guy, loves the camera, and he's very funny.
All righty.
Yeah.
So we'll do that. We getting Bilas on the phone? Or is he calling us? How are we doing that?
I would imagine we're calling.
All right, very good. Give him on the phone right now. It's snowing in Tacoma, Washington. I'm seeing right now from one of our chat folks. All right, so we'll be back with Jay Bilas in a second. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Joining us right here on the Capital One phone line. I don't know where he is now, but I know where he was yesterday, and I know he wasn't there very long. And he's back on the show 2 days after being on it because this keeps changing. This crazy world keeps spinning like it's been spinning. And we'll take your phone calls at 844-204-RICH. But right now, again, on the Capital One phone line is my friend Jay Bilas. How are you, Jay?
I'm doing well, Rich. How are you?
We are well here on the show, and trust you are wherever you are. What happened yesterday? Walk me through your day, Jay. Yesterday.
Well, I got to the Greensboro Coliseum at 8:30 in the morning, and I was a guest on the Packer and Durham show on the ACC network, and was asked immediately what should happen and what will happen with the ACC tournament. And I said that there's no way that the ACC can play games. The tournament should be canceled. And it's a responsibility that not only the ACC has, but all the member institutions to be essentially responsible global citizens in the face of a pandemic. And you can't bring all these people together and then send them back out and risk spreading the virus, given what the World Health Organization had said the day before. And as you said, this is changing. The commissioner, John Swofford, was the next guest on Packer and Durham and said, we're playing, and the games are going forward. I knew that there was going to be discussion afterwards because that couldn't have been the final word. Swofford and other Power 5 commissioners were on a call at 10 o'clock Eastern time. And discussed what their options were and what their action should be. And around about that time, I got some phone calls from ACC coaches. One in particular that said, "We are not coming to the game." And the university president at Duke University, Vincent Price, basically shut down Duke Athletics and said Duke Athletics is suspending play. In order to be that, what I would call responsible global citizen, and to have social distancing and the like. But I was standing on the court ready for the 12:30 game between Florida State and Clemson to take place when Florida State ran out onto the court. Its band started playing, and I happened to be on the air live at the time with, I think, SportsCenter, and just said, this doesn't feel right. There's a tone deafness in this building that is not right. And it couldn't have been more than 10 minutes later that Florida State was off the floor. John Swofford came onto the floor and canceled the tournament and handed Florida State the automatic bid. It was just a surreal process and one that had sadness to it, but there was an inevitability to it that you knew the right thing has to be done here, and when is somebody going to step forward and do it? And finally, the ACC did it.
Oh, man. So when you said there was just a feeling of this is just not right, who shared that with you, Jay?
Everybody. I mean, I don't know anybody that didn't. I was on press row with my colleagues, some of whom were from ESPN, some from other outlets, and we were looking at one another saying, what are we doing? I mean, we can't get ready to do a game here. It just felt inappropriate with the backdrop being the NBA has canceled play. And the first, I know a lot of people are pointing toward Rudy Gobert testing positive on Wednesday, but for me, the biggest event was the World Health Organization declaring this a global pandemic. And this was nothing to mess around with. And the Ivy League, Rich, was ahead of everyone on this. You know, they canceled their tournament the week before and canceled play. So they were sort of leading the way in this and saying this is serious. And even before that, in Austin, Texas, there's an event called South by Southwest that canceled the event. That's a $350 million event. As far as the impact that it has in bringing people from around the country and around the world, and then the money that is in and around Austin during that time period. So it's not like this was operating in a vacuum and this just, you snapped your fingers and it just happened at once. This was building in a lot of ways, and maybe we could argue that we all should have been more aware that this should have happened earlier or should have been considered earlier. But it just seemed like, wait a minute, this has to stop, and then the NCAA has to act faster. Like we haven't heard. We heard what I thought was really important and principled leadership from Mark Cuban the night before,
yes,
when he was, I thought, very reassuring in stepping behind a microphone and explaining what was going on with his franchise, with the NBA, mentioning the hourly workers that would be affected by it, but we hadn't heard word one out of Indianapolis. And when on Wednesday, when the NCAA announced that they were going to go forward with the tournament but with no spectators, I thought that was an appropriate step to take, because you don't cancel first, you can always cancel later. But I was struck by the fact that Mark Emmert said, I made this decision. And then I was struck by sort of the, I don't know what you'd call it, the structural leadership failures in the NCAA of, there was no communication with the commissioners. And so the commissioners found out that news same time you and I did. And so in the backdrop of the NCAA saying no spectators, the governing body saying no spectators at our event, the Big Ten, the ACC, all these other conferences are playing games with spectators. And it made everybody look silly and uninformed. And I can tell you that the commissioners were really upset about that, really upset. And ultimately, and you give Mark Emmert credit and Danny Gavitt credit and the leadership team credit, but you also give for ultimately doing the right thing. They did the right thing by canceling the tournament, and they got where they needed to be. But I will tell you, I think that an incredible amount of credit should go to the independent directors on the Board of Governors that came onto the Board of Governors as a result of the Rice Commission recommendations. And were it not for those independent directors pushing Mark Emmert to act swiftly, I'm not sure that we would have gotten to where we should have been as quickly as we should have gotten there. They deserve a ton of credit for helping to guide this to be in the right spot.
Jay Bilas here on the Rich Eisen Show, and when you were on just 2 days ago, you made mention, because you heard who was in the third hour, Robin Harris, the executive director of the Ivy League, how you went to Duke Law School with her. She was way ahead of the curve, to use, I guess, a phrase of the day. She was way ahead to basically say, we're forget not fans, we're just canceling. And at the time, it was just again 48 hours ago, 72 hours ago, I guess, when she made the decision. Shocking, but now it's totally understandable. Totally understandable.
Totally understandable. And, Rich, it's one of those things when you're talking about leadership that the NCAA office in Indianapolis had access to and put together an advisory panel of medical and healthcare professionals for their advice. Now, just logic would dictate that if you're the governing body, that needs to be shared with and coordinated with the member institutions and the conferences as we go forward. And I don't believe that was happening. Now, individual institutions had their own advice and were acting independently of the NCAA. So before the NCAA canceled the tournament, you had Duke, Kansas, Arizona State, and other institutions that said, we are suspending athletics. So they were basically saying, you can have a tournament if you want. We're not playing in it. And I'm not saying that forced the NCAA's hand, but it's just the idea that because of the way this thing works and the what I would call structural problems and structural failures within the NCAA structure, you have an uncoordinated response to something, and this is where coordination is needed. This isn't like discussing other issues of should conferences not play on Sundays or stuff like should there be Tuesday football games, nothing like that. This is about really heady stuff, and I think what hopefully this will point up and underscore is the need for change going forward. And maybe this isn't the time to discuss it, but it's the time to point it out, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Jay Bilas here on the Rich Eisen Show. And as you pointed out, what had changed for you is when the World Health Organization decided to claim this a global pandemic. And that, for many people who are, I guess, attuned to the front pages of newspapers and things of that nature, a game changer. But for, I think, the American public writ large, when a major American sports league decides to suspend, and the reason why they suspended is because somebody like Rudy Gobert does, in fact, have coronavirus and was actually part of a, I guess, to lack of a better phrase, viral video of him touching microphones and making light of all of it. And he's the one that comes down with it. And he has since put out something on Instagram today that we'll talk about later on, a public apology. But for that, to me, that's where it affected me in particular, Jay, just to use this as a conversation point with you, that when he came down with it, I realized that the concept of playing games without fans was thoroughly not acceptable, because he came in contact with his teammates and other teams and other officials and other members of the grand populace that is at games, whether as fans or working there, and then they go out in the community and they get on a plane and they go all over the place. That was a game changer for me, as well as the NBA, and I think maybe is eventually the country at large, Jay.
Yes, and Rich, look, I'm certainly not a healthcare expert, but I've done a ton of reading on this in the last week,
Me too.
And I have to credit some of my really good friends that are doctors and healthcare professionals that have helped me wrap my head around this. And it took me a while to get to what I consider to be the right place. But I've read a lot about this over the last several days, and the thing that struck me was this wasn't just about you or I not catching this because we're low risk. It's about the spread of it and flattening the curve of the spread so that it doesn't spike and overwhelm our healthcare system. And it's about sort of the idea that it's almost like with young kids in school, like a kindergarten class. The kindergarten class comes down with something. They bring it home. They spread it to the parents and the brothers and sisters. They spread it to their elderly parents, higher risk patients, things like that. That's how this stuff works. And to the extent in large gatherings, where the NCAA and the member institutions and the conferences are bringing players and staff, essential staff and fans from literally all over the country, every corner of the country, gathering together and perhaps spreading this and then taking it home and spreading it. It's irresponsible for these large organizations to continue to do that. And especially given the World Health Organization declaring this a pandemic. And we've seen, Disney World and Disneyland close their doors. We've seen this, I mentioned the South by Southwest that happened, I believe, last week. Mm-hmm. It's not just sports. Sports made it, amplified it, I think, for everyone. But Rich, I still had coaches calling saying, "Hey, I've got doctors telling me that more people die from the flu," and I'm saying, "Look, you need to read about this." And I sent a couple articles to people like that is not right, and it is not something you should be saying publicly. You need to learn more about this. And not that I know everything, but I've learned more, and I hope to learn even more than I've learned in the past week or so. But this is not to be trifled with, and we shouldn't panic. Nobody's saying that, but we need to take appropriate steps to make sure that this does not worsen and this does not put a ridiculous strain on our healthcare system.
Yeah, knowledge is power, and knowledge is calming. I mean, there's no two ways about that. Last one for you, Jay, before I send you on in the rest of your day. Once we drill down eventually, after we get through this, Gino Auriemma posited an interesting concept, saying that this is obviously unprecedented, and that we should, in the NCAA for men's and women's games, just waive the idea that this was your final year and give everybody another senior year, give everybody another year of eligibility. So certainly teams like Dayton and San Diego State could potentially run it back in their seeming Cinderella seasons that have been cut short. And also, obviously, kids for whom there is no professional playing career do have a senior year and an extra year of eligibility. What do you think of that and the feasibility of that, Jay?
I think it's entirely appropriate, and I think it would be workable. They'd have to make a ton of adjustments to do it. If a player wished to come back for an additional year of eligibility, they would have to change, maybe make some adjustments in roster size. make some adjustments, and certainly other players would be affected. So if you're a freshman coming in and all of a sudden you got a whole cadre of seniors coming back, you're going, wait a minute, I'm not going to play next year if that happens. Maybe they need to be released so they can do something else. So each institution would have to make their own decision on their rosters. But the concept of allowing players another year of eligibility, especially athletes that are in spring sports that may not get a chance to play. There's something going on, Rich, right now where people are asking, well, wait a minute, why are the conferences saying they're postponing play, but the NCAA is saying they're canceling play? Well, the NCAA only governs championships. So what they're saying is they're not going to hold championship events. So an NCAA softball tournament, it doesn't mean that the conferences can't adjust later and play softball. It means that the NCAA is not going to hold a championship tournament. So they've canceled that. So that may be a distinction without a difference to some people, but we may see adjustments going forward if we can wrap our arms around this pandemic and take the right steps. But there is a difference between how the conferences act and how the NCAA acts.
And I couldn't just to circle back to our first part of this conversation, to put a button on it, that did you say essentially that the ACC, based on whatever was going on yesterday in conference calls and lack of communication from Indianapolis to conference presidents and executive directors, that Duke acted before the ACC to basically say, we're not doing this? And obviously that would force the hand. If Duke's saying, I'm not taking part in an ACC tournament or an NCAA tournament, then what are we doing it for? Is that the timeline? And if so, how did Coach K play in all this, best to your knowledge, Jay?
That's exactly what happened. Is the determination was made by the president of Duke University, Vincent Price, that Duke would suspend all athletic activities, and not just for basketball, but for all of athletics. And it was done, according to President Price, in order for social distancing and to make sure that they didn't contribute to the spread of the virus. I was told, I can't remember the exact time, whether it was 10:30, 11 o'clock, that neither NC State, I was told by one of the coaches, neither NC State nor Duke, who were scheduled to play in the 2:30 game, the second game of the quarterfinals, neither were coming to the game. So essentially they were saying, look, we're not going to come and play. And look, there's discussion out there now that every player wants to play. And in the abstract, that's true. They want to play. Everybody would want to play, but they want to play under the right conditions. And some of the players were apprehensive. Some of the state players, some of the Duke players were apprehensive about what about their families? What's going on? This doesn't feel right. Things like that. Not that they didn't want to play, but they were concerned. And I was told, I talked with Mike Krzyzewski, and he told me, I'm looking at a different team today than I looked at yesterday. And the players were making what I consider to be very mature observations about what they were facing and what the league was facing and whether this felt right and was right. Now, that doesn't mean that they didn't want to play, so to speak. But it was young men, and that's another thing, Rich, where we keep saying, well, these kids, infantilizing them. The NCAA calls this men's basketball and women's basketball. These are adults. They're young people, but they're adults, and they're smart. And they were asking a lot of smart questions, and they were wondering what their place in this was and whether this was the right thing. And they weren't the only ones. There were others that were doing it, but I'm not sure that should be overlooked.
Jay, you are awesome. I really appreciate you being available to me and this show as much as you have been, and we may be calling you next week too, man, because things change. And then next week, when we're on the air, when there should have been March Madness, maybe we'll just call and stroll down memory lane and just talk a little bit of sports out of this madness of the world. I really appreciate it.
Anytime you call, I answer.
You're the best. Thanks, Jay. You take care of you and your family. You bet. That's Jay Bilas. Nobody better. Nobody better. At Jay Bilas on Twitter and at Real Deal Jay Bilas. I love his style, man.
Obviously, Real Deal. Obviously. On
Instagram. And he was on the Capital One phone line, brought to you by, guess what? Capital One. How about that? Well, Capital One has reimagined banking by offering savings and checking accounts with no fees or minimums and one of the nation's best savings rates. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Approval required. Capital One NA, member FDIC. When Duke says we're not coming, and NC State says we're not coming, and there's no game in the quarterfinal, what does that tell the commissioner of the league? Maybe we're not going to play this thing.
That's a wrap.
We hit on Rudy Gobert's Instagram post of apology today and what Adam Silver had to say about Gobert last night when he was on TNT. And in that respect, we send our best to Charles Barkley as well. We'll hit on that subject and your phone calls at 844-204-RICH when we come back on The Rich Eisen Show. All right, we're here on our YouTube page. There's TJ Jefferson, Rich Eisen Show, Grand Maester. By the way, just that pic, that half a face of Evan Rachel Wood on the AT&T building behind you right now is just freaking me out.
Wow, is that a Westworld ad?
Yeah, it's like a Westworld ad that's back there.
All right, so you know how we're looking for things to do?
Yes, sir.
Maybe things to place wagers on? The chat wants to...
What are you saying?
Jose Ortega in the chat has a great idea. He wants to start betting on what the color of your sweater is going to be each day.
Well, you know, I can fix that.
That's true.
Well, you're not in on it. You're not in on it. This is just from the chat room. This is the wormhole talking.
Okay.
The 454 crew wants to get on some action.
Now, would there be
we got some degenerates in the
would
chat.
there be an extra if it comes with patches?
Well, I mean that's a prop. We can do a prop. That's a prop action.
There's only a couple that I have in the closet.
Will
with,
the sweater have
with
elbow patches?
By
But
the
I
way,
think
next week the weather. God bless.
It's gonna rain all week.
And like be 60 degrees. It's sweater weather next week here in Los Angeles, California.
By the way, if you're someone who lives in Southern California, right,
Yes.
and you have the audacity to complain about the rain right now, then to, I think, borrow a quote from Deion Sanders, where he once said, "I need you to walk by a mirror and look at it and slap what you see." Because come August, we're going to be praying for rain around here. So let it pour is what I say.
know. I just think everybody wants to get out of their house and maybe go clear their heads and go on a beautiful hike or something like that.
Well, you can still do that in the rain. It's not snow.
Would you do that in the rain?
Look, let me tell you something, Rich.
When was the last time you went for a hike, TJ?
Yeah, that's another question.
No, but here's the deal with me and hikes. Like people say, I'm going to go hike
I'm
running.
just saying.
To me, like a hike involves like boots and a pickaxe. Like you're going to running. You're going for a walk.
Like the dude who climbed.
Yeah, like on The Price is Right.
Runyon Canyon is a particularly steep climb. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
When was the last time?
First of all.
When was the last time?
First of all.
It's a couple years ago.
The Rich Eisen Show Open.
Oh, yeah.
Where I'm walking up a hill and two young ladies are hiking down the hill and I have a football and I give them like a little wink and a nod. That was shot in Runyon Canyon.
And you were in a suit
I
for
was
that
in a suit. It was a very hot day. In August, September. We shot that before we went on the air.
I want to say that was early September.
And so, by the way, when we shot that, I had no idea it would last for every single one of our shows in 5.5 years of audience.
We shut down Hollywood Boulevard.
I don't think we're showing it now.
Not anymore.
To start our YouTube page.
Hollywood Boulevard, closed. Run out, spin it.
God bless Chris Long.
It was, that shoot day was so fun.
Chris Long, who was in charge of audience, it still does, has nothing but he always wants it big and premium. Big and premium. The man did shut down Hollywood Boulevard for me to walk past Grumman's Chinese Theater and spin a football.
And pull one out of a...
There is video of me trying to...
by the way, I think I still have stuff on my phone.
Of me
I want to
poorly
say so.
spinning a football, right?
Let me look.
You should give those to Bowie. Send those to Bowie.
Let me see if I can find
Don, maybe you can... We could show that to our
let
YouTube
me
audience
look.
and later on these next two.
Then we went.
This predated your being on the show from the studio
But
side.
I was upstairs on the 4th floor when it was all taking place. Josh Turnbow shot that.
Yeah.
I think maybe Jonathan Belinsky might have shot some, but Josh Turnbow was the director of that. So I got to see the storyboard. I was there throughout the whole
There
process.
were a couple. I just could not, and it was like nerve wracking
We
because
were
we're
in that-
shutting down,
it was
and
crazy.
like members of the LAPD are like, you know, are you
Just
gonna
like,
get
you
out
guys
of there?
good? You guys better go. Your window is like 30 seconds.
All right, we're back in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Let's get to the phone lines. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. How many phone calls have we taken from Alaska in the 5+ year history of our show that we'll keep running for a
I'm not
long
sure if
time?
we've taken any.
Nate in Alaska, you might be the first right here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Nate?
Doing well. How are you doing, Rich?
I'm hanging in there. What's on your mind, sir?
So I wanted to sort of keep the tone about sports. I'm a teacher here in Alaska.
Okay.
And I'm originally from South Dakota, and I've just seen two totally different approaches. Here in Alaska, regional basketball tournament my kids are in, just canceled or pushed back technically, but likely to get canceled.
Right.
South Dakota, charging ahead, keep doing state tournaments, limited attendance. And I guess I get how sports maybe can be something that helps in this time, but what do you think on these more local levels where people think they can contain it?
Yeah, I think at this point in time we got to stop everything, Nate. I'll be very honest with you, and I feel again. I took a phone call the other day from my nephew Jack, lives in in Massachusetts. He is a dynamite athlete. He is an outstanding individual on the planet who deserves everything good that comes his way. Really, he has earned that. And unfortunately, his baseball season, it looks like it's not going to happen in his senior year, and he'll never get that back. Never, because he's going off to college. And it's just terrible. It's dreadful. But unfortunately, that's just the way it's got to go. And anybody that's just continuing on as if nothing has changed or social distancing is exactly what we should be doing, period. And we don't know. Somebody doesn't know in a youth sports that the kid at the plate, there's a cough from the umpire. I mean, we don't know, right? We have no earthly idea that the umpire gets it from the kid. The coach gives it to the kid, who gives it to the umpire, who then, grabs some extra baseballs from somebody running it out, and that kid then goes to the snack shed. I mean, who the hell knows, Nate? That's the point.
Yeah.
Right now. I
totally agree with you. It feels like something we should be doing, but it is hard.
Of course
really
it is.
hard to see.
It's so hard to tell kids we're not going on that trip. It's so hard to tell kids that you need to stay home. It's so hard to tell, and thanks for the call, Nate. You know how hard it is to tell my kids to wash their hands for 20 seconds? God bless my daughter. She's doing it like singing happy birthday.
That's a long time to focus.
I know. Well, I mean, it's tough. And it's tough to tell kids that there's something serious out in the world without freaking them out.
Yeah.
And here's just again, for anybody that may not be taking it seriously, or doesn't realize the seriousness with which this should be taken. How about to put it that way? The people who aren't taking it seriously went to the Post Malone concert last night. The people who may not realize they should be taking it seriously, I would say you put Rudy Gobert in that category.
Yes.
And that might be a generous way to put it with him. He put out this Instagram post today. All right, if you want to put that up on our screen. Thank you, Don Bouyer, coordinating producer. I want to thank everyone for the outpouring of concern and support over the last 24 hours. I have gone through so many emotions since learning of my diagnosis, mostly fear, anxiety, and embarrassment. The first and most important thing is I'd like to publicly apologize to the people that I may have endangered. At the time, I had no idea I was even infected. I was careless and make no excuse. I hope my story serves as a warning and causes everyone to take this seriously. I will do whatever I can to support my experience as a way to educate others and prevent the spread of this virus. I'm under great care and will fully recover. Thank you again for all your support. I encourage everyone to take all the steps to stay safe and healthy. And he wrote, love. Good job, Rudy Gobert. And the commissioner of the NBA, Adam Silver, went on TNT last night and says that they're going to make, or they plan to make, a public service announcement on this very subject with Rudy Gobert leading the way. And that's a great way also for the commissioner to have the back of a defensive player of the year of his league, because this guy was absolutely tarred and feathered for the last 48 hours because of how careless he was and cavalier he was and joking about it. Donovan Mitchell got it. So we do need to let people know through sports and a sports figure that will cut through potentially in a way that somebody that you don't know wouldn't, to get people to realize how serious this is. That we have a small window now to make sure that life can get back to normal faster. That we have a small window of time now to make sure there isn't some sort of dystopian hellscape that could actually rain upon our world and destroy our healthcare industry as we know it, as well as the economy.
Do you think if Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell don't test positive for this, all these events are still going on?
I don't know if they're all still going on, but they might be going on with fans, without fans. The fact that a player got sick and somebody of note got sick is an eye-opener. And I will say this too. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, hour 3, I can't wait to ask him about testing. How did 58 Utah Jazz members of front office and members all get tested with a response fast? When healthcare workers who are on the front lines of fighting this aren't getting tested, or their tests get screwed up, or they're still waiting days for a response. How does that happen? How are we not fixing that fast? Apparently we are, which is great news. And you know what makes me calmer? Walking around, it makes me calmer. Going home makes me calmer sitting in front of this microphone, that it's being handled and it's being addressed. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Dr. Sanjay Gupta in hour 3. But when we come back, we just heard about Jay Bilas and how he thought players and coaches and how he's learned through talking to players and coaches about what it was like to try and play. Tom Izzo of the Michigan State Spartans will join us in hour 2, and breaking news out of NASCAR in a moment. Let's have a little fun right here. Jim Brockmeyer, God bless him. He is such a legend in the booth, Jim Brockmeyer. We were right in the middle of a vicious rivalry and argument between Jim Brockmeyer and Brent Musburger, and I do believe even Bob Costas tried to mediate. That's how the Rich Eisen show rolls. Take a look. What is going on with you, Jim Brockmeyer and Brent Musburger?
This is my Musburger face. Brent Musburger is a punk. The man is a thief, okay? Brent Musburger is a thief.
How so?
Stole my line.
What line was that?
This is for all the Tostitos. That's what I always yell when I climax inside of a woman. Now I have to yell out, Ruffles have ridges, and it's not the same thing.
Musburger responded, "Yo, Buckmeyer or whatever, saw your pathetic performance on the Eisen show. Your ex whispered to me you always screamed for all the Tostitos prematurely." So Hank responded moments ago, telling Musburger who's number one. Bob, how would you try to broker the peace here?
Obama once famously had a beer summit between the policeman and Henry Louis Gates. I think that they need to meet not only over a six-pack, but a gigantic bowl of Tostitos and hash this thing out.
Here is Brent Musburger. How are you, Brent?
I'm so proud of you guys for trying to help resurrect little Jimmy Brickmeyer's career. We all know the problems. We all know the problem.
He says that you stole all the Tostitos from him, Brent. Is that true? Or
What's he talking about? You know, Rich, it's really interesting because as we started VSiN here in Las Vegas, and Brickmeyer was having trouble getting a job. So our general manager, he interviewed Brickmeyer and asked him about a three-team parlay. And our boy, Jimmy, he thought that was two hookers with him in a Morristown hotel room. You know, wish him the best. He's so delusional. And listen, let him go at it. For all the Tostitos, baby.
What we're gonna do right here is go back into time.
Yesterday on the Rich Eisen Show.
Jason Lockenfor from CBS Sports here on the Rich Eisen Show.
In terms of the league year, it may be business as usual, but it ain't really business as usual. The league is sending out vibes that nothing to see here. But, Rich, you know how that goes sometimes, right? It's a little bit of a trial balloon. We're not going to be able to consummate deals fully because we're not giving someone $55 million guaranteed until they pass a physical. And we're not going to be conducting any physicals. And you know what I mean? We've told people to essentially stay home.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now. Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
The cascading effect means that you don't have a choice. At that point, you have to shut down the league and wait this thing out.
Civilization is not going to be brought to its knees by this. We will always remember the time where we weren't prepared as a globe, and we will love the return of these sports more than ever.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
What will we talk about?
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Still to come, CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Michigan State Head Coach Tom Izzo, ESPN NBA Analyst Jeff Van Gundy. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Okay, hour number 2 of the Rich Eisen Show, live on the air on this Friday of a sports week, and obviously a week in our world that we've never seen before, many of us. I don't believe I've been alive for a flu pandemic. Maybe I have, but nothing like this. I don't recall the last time there was a pandemic announced by the World Health Organization that shut down sports leagues. I'm trying my best here at this microphone to tell you what's on my mind and what's on my heart, and have a conversation with all of you. Our phone lines are all full and lit. We appreciate that at 844-204-RICH here on this radio station that you are listening to us on, and youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show if you want to watch. Apparently, the chat box of our YouTube page is completely full. With people wanting to, with a lack of sporting events going on, want to bet on my color of sweater every single day. Is that true, Christopher?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So if you,
I'm down for that. If you want to, get involved.
Well, for those out there who bet on handsome navy blue, you're a winner. And I must say, that makes me a winner. Yeah, if you parlayed it with patches, man,
that's what I'm saying.
You can really cash that ticket.
Parlay patch, oh my gosh,
Parlay
at
patch.
least 9-1.
You're missing your sports gambling that much, huh, man? Very good.
We need to fix that.
Hey, by the way, if you were just about to start coughing, make sure you get that elbow in front of your face there. Okay,
I was about to. I was trying to power through.
Well, power through, man. Do you need a minute? Why don't I take a phone call before your news update? There you go, Chris Brockman. Well done. Okay, let's get to. Who's been waiting longest? Bob in Kentucky's been waiting longest. Let's get Bob on the phone. What's up, Bob, here on the Capital One fan line here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Bob?
Nothing much. How you doing today, Rich?
I am doing best I possibly can. Thank you.
There you go. I'm first time, long time. There's a question I wanted to ask. With the Olympics coming up, we
Yes.
got the trials that I think are coming up maybe April or May. The impact of that hasn't really been talked about too much. And the second part on top of that is all these sporting events are closing down. I live in Kentucky. Every school in this entire state will be closed by Monday.
Okay.
The team from my county went to the state tournament. They're not playing that. But yet next week, in 3 of the bigger states, they're still voting. That's a big event that we can't play basketball, but we can still go vote.
Well, I mean, there's vote by mail, and I think Louisiana just canceled the Democratic primary, which is unfortunate, and that there should be ability to vote by mail in these states, and if they can, then do it. It may suppress turnout, but I totally understand what you're saying. Democracy's got to continue in some way, shape, or form. We're not going to stop an election that's coming. That's got to happen. I mean, but out of an abundance of caution, maybe there's mail-in voting that could be followed. And in terms of, the Olympics, thanks for the call, Bob. That's a thorny one, man. I mean, that's something that people have been. I know I mentioned that there are kids that are going to lose their senior seasons of high school.
Talk about losing 4 years of training for this.
There's still time, I guess. I mean, we're talking
There's still time.
July and August.
There's still time.
For what's going on in Tokyo and Japan, apparently, again, just in the same way. What if one person in an Olympic Village has it?
I mean, there's 10, 15,000 people in an Olympic Village. If one person gets it, it's over.
Wow. Or maybe this can be somehow contained. Again, and I want to talk to Dr. Gupta about this. Dr. Sanjay Gupta will join us in hour 3. I've had healthcare professionals tell me that this is, at its core, still a coronavirus, a flu. It's not. It's more morbid than the regular, if you will, flu. but it still is a virus that ebbs, that peaks, and then flows through. And they're assuming that that's the case too. That's why you hear how, it'll be less intense in summer months or in warm weather, although you're seeing in the southern hemisphere, it's still there.
Right.
So nobody knows. But the Olympics is particularly a thorny issue that we'll have to, I think, wait and see on. There's no reason to make a call on that right now. But you're seeing sporting events in April, early April, having calls on it right now, and then the NFL draft is up next. I'd be stunned if that happens in Las Vegas, Nevada.
I would be stunned.
Let's take on one more phone call here. Nick in Oregon, you're back here on the show. How are you, Nick?
I am well, thanks, Rich.
What's up, man?
So I got a couple things. I have immense respect for you for continuing the show, continuing to bring awareness to the situation that is still fluid and somewhat unknown in terms of the overall impact. I would love to get Sanjay Gupta's professional opinion. I watch him every night, so I know what he's saying, and I'm rather informed in terms of what's happening here. In Oregon specifically, they have already shut all the schools down in the Portland metro area. They've taken everything into account. They've shut all the gatherings, anybody over 100 people or something like that. It's been pretty proactive in terms of the social distancing. But and Sanjay Gupta may have better insight on this than I do, obviously. But how effective is this if you're only talking about a single city or a single state or whatever, if they're doing this? But then you've got places in, let's just use an Idaho as an example, right? What if they don't have any social distancing because there's not a single that are just doing whatever the heck they feel like doing? It seems like it's a counterproductive measure if not everybody is doing it at the same time because of the incubation period of this particular virus. It's if you don't all do it in succession,
right,
then you're just throwing spit in the wind, right? Eventually you're going to get hit by something, and you got to start it all over again. And it's if we don't all take the 14 to 20 days or whatever they suggest you do, all at the exact same time, then how is this curve ever going to be sort of minimized or slowed down, right?
Nick, thank you. I appreciate the call. You're absolutely right. And I will ask Dr. Gupta later on, how do we coordinate a social distancing effort throughout 50 United States? I will ask him that later on. And I appreciate what you said about this show. As long as we are healthy, and ready to go, we'll do it. We're planning on being here next week. And in terms of, once again, the concept of what are sports shows going to talk about? Well, we'll figure that out. In the same way that I'm saying we'll get through missing these sporting events, we'll get through that.
We'll get through it.
It's all good. Knock on wood, as long as we're healthy and Brockman keeps coughing into his elbow when he needs to cough, we're good.
Appreciated that.
Thank you, Feller. Appreciated that. He's within 6 feet of you.
That's true. We are pretty close here.
Normally, Del Tufo prefers to be more socially close.
Front seat.
He's front seat Uber driver. By the way, not a bad fantasy team name when we get back in that business.
You had a good one that was dark.
Dystopian hellscape. I saw you write that down.
I know.
Well, I'm in a groove.
Yeah.
Tom Izzo of Michigan State coming up. That was our Capital One phone line, brought to you phone calls, and we'll take more of them. Just stay on hold. We're going to take your calls. We'll clean them all out, obviously, before the end of this show. Capital One has reimagined banking by offering savings and checking accounts with no fees or minimums, and one of the nation's best savings rates. Capital One, what's in your wallet? Approval required. Capital One NA member FDIC. Now let's get Chris Brockman's news update, brought to you by the Honda HR-V. Stupendously stylish and available with all-wheel drive. The HR-V is ready to team up for your next adventure, so hurry into your local Honda dealer today.
And now, with a report of the day's news from the world of sports and entertainment, someone who is not a journalist or newsman by any definition of the word whatsoever, it's Chris Brockman.
What do you have over there, Christopher?
Okay, earlier in the week, like we said, we were waiting kind of for the NBA to kind of lead the way here. Adam Silver has, and he was on Turner, did a special edition of the NBA on TNT last night. He joined the guys, and this is what he had to say.
This hiatus will be most likely at least 30 days. And we don't know enough, as you've all said, to be more specific than that, but we wanted to give direction to our players and teams and to our fans that this is going to be roughly at least a month. Even if we're out for a month, even if we're out for 6 weeks, we could still restart the season it might mean that then the finals take place in July, late July. Just my feeling was it was way premature to suggest that we had lost the season. Of course, it's possible. I just don't know more at this point. I mean, there's another factor, that may go to the seasonality of this virus. Again, I've talked to a lot of experts. It's a little clear. Some have a theory that it's just as with the common flu, as the weather changes, we may see it begin to peter out a little bit. I mean, again, we don't know.
That was last part on whether the season could be entirely canceled.
Yeah.
What else do you have over there?
It would be pretty strange seeing an NBA season in August, but if it saves the season, I'm all for it.
You know what would be strange as well? You say it's strange, but do you know how much more into it everyone's going to be?
When it comes back.
We just don't take, take so many things for granted in this world.
Absolutely.
And again, the first people we take for granted are the hourly wage workers who work at these arenas, who need to be compensated, and the owners of the Devils and the New Jersey teams just came out and said that they're going to compensate their hourly workers, which is great news right there.
So Charles Barkley was not on set last night,
right,
in Turner, and he said why during the broadcast.
I spent earlier part of the week in New York City. When I got to Atlanta yesterday, I wasn't feeling well, and I talked to a couple people at Turner and a couple doctors, and they told me to self-quarantine for the next 48 hours. So I started yesterday. This is my second day. I haven't been feeling great, and they didn't want me to take any chances, so they told me to quarantine myself for 48 hours. I went and took the coronavirus test late this afternoon. I have not gotten the results back. So I'm just kind of in limbo right now. I'm hoping, and I'm really hoping it was just a bug. But like I said, I was in New York earlier this week because that was a hot spot. And when I got to Atlanta, I just wasn't feeling well. But I took the test, and I haven't gotten the results back. But that's where I'm at right now.
Well, we only hope for the best for Charles. Love that man. And we hope to hear something on, I guess, somebody else's social media channels. He doesn't have them.
Right.
That test came back negative. Just two things, just to try and, calm everybody. If everybody had testing as readily available as the Utah Jazz clearly did, and the Oklahoma City Thunder clearly have, because I'm sure they got tested and we haven't heard yet. We would have heard if somebody else tested positive for coronavirus, I'm sure. And Charles clearly gotten. If we all had readily available testing where we knew where to go, many of us don't, and we knew we could get a result in the next 24, 48 hours, we'd be all so much calmer. A.
I think you're right.
And B, another way to stay calm is that Charles could just have a cold. He could just have the regular flu.
Yeah, like Fred Hoiberg.
You know what I was telling you? Like, I was feeling well enough to come in here. Big time. If I didn't feel well, I wouldn't be sitting here. You know that, right? I'm not going to put anybody in any danger in any way, shape, or form. I told you this just yesterday. I felt like I had some ringing in the ears, a little bit of, scratchy throat, and nothing else. And I look at all the symptoms of what a symptomatic individual with coronavirus is. I didn't have any of these other items, so I'm just coming around. Last night, just the little Flonase, one in each nose, good as new. It's allergies.
Yep.
There's stuff flying in the air around here. It's March. Every March. I forgot. That's right. Every March around here.
And if you see someone sneezing out, sneezing's not a symptom. So don't be afraid.
Well, I mean, it's the droplets that's the issue. Sneezing. Well, here's the deal. Wash your hands. You know what I'd like to do? Let's do this later on. Okay. After the show, TJ Jefferson, let's do this. I'd like to shoot a video in our restroom.
Okay.
Near our green room, right off our green room, where I'm going to wash my hands, and this will be, because everybody's going to wash their hands for 20 seconds. You heard happy birthday, sing happy birthday twice.
Right.
My daughter's singing the alphabet. God bless her. But for the sports fans, how about if you sing the first verse to your school's fight song twice over? That's 20 seconds. How about that?
That's
we'll
fair.
shoot that, post it at Rich Eisen Show, hashtag wash your hands, get it out there.
It's been a while since I'd sang the Syracuse fight.
Do you know it?
I'd have to think hard.
Oh, my gosh.
I'd have to think hard.
It also exposes your lack of fandom.
Yes.
At the same time.
Sure.
All right, you got one other thing because Tom Izzo's calling in.
Sure. As we mentioned, the Masters has announced it's postponing.
Unbelievable.
Not canceling, postponing.
Right.
NASCAR was one of the few things that was still going on as of yesterday. This morning, they announced they are postponing the race in Atlanta and Homestead.
Makes sense.
Continue to monitor and to assess the future race.
Certainly with the NFL not active, which sporting event brings the most people together in one place?
Over 100,000 people at NASCAR races.
Period.
Yes, absolutely. The Boston Marathon announced it's postponing until September.
Good
it's
news.
the first time in the race's 124-year history. It's not going to take place in April. And the English Premier League, also one of the last few things not to postpone.
Wow, EPL.
It is announced it is postponing matches until April 3rd.
Okay.
Still waiting to see if the UFC is going to postpone its events this week.
It's no doubt. Anybody who holds an event right now is so derelict of their social duties. Anybody out there that holds a concert now, anybody that attends any of these is absolutely doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, you're seeing comedians announce they're postponing all their tour dates.
Take a break.
The XFL announced it's canceling all remaining games, but is going to pay players the remaining of their base salary.
Very good. I would say let's all Netflix and chill, but, well, some of us can.
What's Netflix?
That's fine. And chill. And you could do both at the same time.
If you have the chill option, by all means, chill.
844-204-RICH, number to dial. Tom Izzo, the great Tom Izzo. We'll chat with him about when he learned that the Big Ten tournament had canceled and what his thoughts were about preparing for it and his thoughts about the season essentially being over for his team and what he's told his players and what they thought. Love this man. Love this guy. Tom Izzo of the Michigan State Spartans next here on the Rich Eisen Show. The Honda Ridgeline. When it's time to tailgate again, folks, this is the car for you. It is the ultimate tailgating vehicle. You drive in like a boss. You take all of your gear, all of your tailgating gear, you throw it in the truck bed, and you drive in like a boss. It's a beautiful car. It's eye-catching, to say the least. You get in the parking lot, you take all your gear out, you set yourself up, you blast the in-bed truck audio system. I'm telling you, the speakers are quite something. You can't even see them. And then you have a blast. You have a party. Imagine when you're tailgating again what this is going to be like. Then you go into the game, but before you do, you take all your stuff and you put it in the lockable in-bed trunk. And there's roomy inside, all the bells and whistles, Honda sensing, all of it. The Honda Ridgeline is dynamite. Test drive a Honda Ridgeline right now at your local Honda dealer. Go in there, and when it's time to tailgate again, this is the car for you. I'm telling you. Tell them Rich Eisen sent you at your local Honda dealer. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. Tom Izzo when we come back. Hello, YouTube viewers. Oh, we got a nice number.
Wormhole. Shout out the wormhole, Rich.
Shout out the wormhole. That's what we're calling it.
We're calling
right
it the
now.
wormhole.
That's it. What it is.
So it's the 454 crew of the wormhole.
I don't appreciate.
It's not up to you.
Certainly when it goes up. Do you think me bitching about my Uber rating has caught the eye of enough Uber drivers that are just now going to just give me 5 stars without me having to get in a car?
I mean, let's hope so. Have you taken an Uber this week at all?
No, I have not. I have not. Okay, so look, you've even printed out a new 454 crew.
Yo, Cisco did this, in honor of our crew over there. We'll give a shout out to the 454 crew.
Appreciate that. So in a previous YouTube viewership conversation, I guess in our long commercial breaks for the radio, we mentioned about the Rich Eisen Show Open, in which God bless Christopher J. Long, who helped birth this show and gave us all the bells and whistles for so many years here on Audience, shut down Hollywood Boulevard for me to walk through past Grumman's Chinese Theater with a football and spin it on the ground. And we actually have video. Did you find this on your phone, Chris?
I did not. The only one I have on my phone is the beach one.
Okay. This is really what happened.
Look at that.
Yep. And I got to go right across it and.
Took a few tries.
Oh my God! Normally I am a one-take wonder.
It took a few. That was a big moment.
Look at that thing spinning.
A lot of people. That was your best one, and it was slightly out of
Slightly wobbly.
Slightly out of frame though on the bottom too.
It's
That was such a fun day. We were all over the place. We started there.
Running Canyon.
We went to
Hollywood
a spot
sign.
In Beverly Hills for the
tree,
coming
the
out of
palm
the
tree.
tree.
Yeah.
We went all the way down to Santa Monica to the beach. It was great.
That was a 2-day shoot, I think. I don't think it was all in one day. You couldn't get to the Hollywood sign and to the beach. And
I think you did this stuff solo, but I came with you on the first day.
This is super slow-mo? By the way, look at that. Still fit into the suit, by the way.
Attaboy.
Yeah, it's still wobbly. That's the best one they could do.
That was the best one. It was it's slightly out of frame on the bottom.
They wanted me to walk out of frame, but I think I did a couple takes where I did the Steve Smith, like bend down and use that as the fire.
Yeah.
By the way, this move, my tennis thing, yeah, that hurt. That hurts.
What is going on with you, buddy?
I'm 50. What do you want from me? Tendons that right now you don't even know you have in your wrist? A few years from now, buddy? 11 years. God bless. You're rocking the baby right now.
Baby.
That's your super. That's
Pick
your.
him up. I'm working.
So do you have stuff on the card, or you just brought that out?
No, I don't have it.
There's nothing on your card. By the way, this card is the same version of his glasses. It's fake. Show the blank side. Flip it. What did you bring? He's got nothing.
Wow.
Just like the prescription on your lenses there.
Wow.
I almost wore real glasses today, but then I remembered this and I decided not to. But this was just to show the 454 crew that we're thinking about.
Right,
By the way, how much time do we have left from this segment?
We got a minute.
Okay. This is a great
By the way,
topic.
are people calling me soft and a hypochondriac right now because I'm talking? It's a joke, people.
Great topic for next week. This guy, Jeff Eisen band. You have to quarantine with 3 athletes, past or present. Who's your crew?
I like that. Because I have a question I always ask all the guests in the back.
Next week.
Which I've wanted to ask you all the time. We got enough time to do this. I want you to think.
By the way, is that my brother masquerading? It's because my brother's Jeff Eisen,
right? Yeah.
Might be. No, it's not. He's way too young.
All right, let's take a break. I'm sorry, we're coming back.
We'll come back to that.
Take your blank card. Get out of here.
Get out of here. Make like a tree
and leaf.
And
Ryan Leaf. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. I love this man, even though he occasionally makes my life miserable with his Michigan State Spartans. But I've a pleasure to call this man a friend, as well as the best man of his wedding. He is none other than Michigan State's Tom Izzo. How are you, Coach?
Good, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing fine. This is crazy.
It's our time, isn't it, Rich?
I was about to say crazy
Even
times. Crazy.
Even you probably were hoping that there's basketball going on all day, so you have something to talk about.
No,
right?
I know, but again, we're talking about bigger things, and
yeah, we are.
And that's why I'm saying, so what was the conversation with you and your players about all this, Tom?
Oh, it was tough. I'll be honest with you. I said I actually had an early morning meeting on yesterday, and then I was going to practice, and we had a great practice. I was surprised because I had to tell them that there'd be no fans in the stands and all that. This was yesterday morning. Michigan was supposed to play Rutgers at noon, and at about 10:02 or something, they came into our practice. We were going to be done at noon, and we were going to drive down the Indy, and they told us that it's canceled, okay? So I had to tell the players that. And then by 3 o'clock, they talked about the NCAA being canceled. And I didn't want them to find out on Twitter or something, so I called a meeting at 4:30, and at 4:20 they released it. And that was a tear-jerking meeting for this, Senior for Cassius, who had come so far from all he's been through this year. It was, I do feel for the seniors in all sports, and yet, as you say, it's bigger than life. I was hoping that they'd postpone it for a couple weeks till we got our arms around this thing, because I don't know if anybody does have their arms around it right now, and see what happens, but I guess it just wasn't able to be that way. So now we move on, and I think both our schools, I think, are all but closing down this week.
Right.
As far as everything, so it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. And so, can you let me in on what your conversation was with Cassius? Again, as you mentioned, his journey this year.
I just told him that life's not always fair, but there's bigger things in life than basketball, and I said somehow, some way, he's got to use this. That we always say, well, there's a next year, and well, there's the tournament, or well, there's the Big Ten tournament, and I try to tell all our players this is why you hear it all your life, live each day like it's your last. Well, I don't live to die, but I also hopefully it teaches guys that you better take advantage of every second you have, and for Cassius, I said hopefully you have a future still, and now we got to look towards that.
Tom Izzo here on the Rich Eisen Show. Was there a sense of unease in preparing, however, for your game while you were doing that?
It was strange. I mean, I played at Northern Michigan, so Rich and I played in front of no fans a lot of times. When you're at Division II schools, so
nice.
I tried to make light of that,
right.
Tell them that it's not all that bad. But I don't think uneasiness as far as worrying about anything. I was uneasiness, wondering how. I think they felt bad that the only people could be there was their immediate family, no girlfriends, no aunts and uncles, things like that. And you get to that pinnacle of your career or your season, and this is when people get to celebrate the good times. And because you are deep into the Big Ten or NCAA tournament, you're playing for something that's really big, and as far as what we do as coaches or as players. But then I think the reality of making sure everybody's healthy and all these things take a bigger stand. So I don't know if it was uneasiness. I think it was the unknown, and that's the whole thing with this disease. Or
right.
It's the unknown that's maybe scarier than the known.
Yeah, I know. So who is the team or the school reaching out to in order to inform you of what the risks were or what could go down? I mean, can you walk me through?
Well, yeah, I think that's the hard part. I think so many people got on Twitter and got on their, TV, and everybody's talking about what should be doing. All I said is let's talk to our medical people, and that all happened so fast that we didn't get much into that. It was all canceled before you could really step forward on much of that. And now I think that's what's happening all over, and that's why, everybody. In the state of Michigan, we're closing elementary schools, high schools. I think Michigan State, I think all the schools are going to be more or less closed. Things will be online. It's a bizarre time, and yet it's, I think, drastic situations take drastic measures, and I do respect that people are trying to do what's best for everybody. I just don't know what that is.
I know.
Do you go out to eat? What do you do?
Well, did you get any specifics on the I guess science of it, medical, or how to handle it? What you passed on to your kids?
I really didn't. Nobody's shaking hands with anybody now, and
right.
And yet, if you're in a room with somebody, if my worry at a campus was, okay, we close the campus down, or we, say classes are closed down, does that mean everybody heads to the bars? You remember back in your college days, and that's worrisome, So it was just with everything that I was worried about, and you say that fever and coughing and this and that, a lot of like flu symptoms, but sometimes they say that right now, you could have it and not have symptoms. So it is a scary time, and we're just trying to deal with it day by day. But I've met with my players now, and some of them will be going home at least for a week and doing things online.
Tom Izzo here on the Rich Eisen Show. Are you off the recruiting trail for the time being as well?
Yeah, we're not allowed to go anywhere, and even in recruits to high schools, they've canceled all the high school tournaments. So there's, I guess in their own way, I'm going to have a week or two to, like I've never had since I've been in this job, where I guess I'm supposed to stay home too. Which, never happens, in these jobs. You're kind of working a lot of hours, and right now, I guess in some way that's what I got to look at. I don't know how that'll be. I hope my wife puts up with me for a couple days.
Just FaceTime with
I hope
Mooch,
the divorce
Tom.
rate doesn't go up.
By the way,
these women will be sick of us.
By the way, I'll tell you, a lot of people are saying, well, as you mentioned, like, what do we talk about in the sports world, when that happens? I think there should be a show, FaceTime with Mooch, Izzo and Mooch. I would pay to watch a FaceTime between the two of you guys.
He called me because he was coming to the Big Ten tournament.
I'm sure.
I said on Thursday night it didn't look like I thought we were going to play, but it didn't look like we were going to have anybody in the stands.
Right.
And he says, but I'm related to you. And I said, I'm not claiming you. So
right.
He stayed home.
A few minutes left here with Michigan State's Tom Izzo. Gino Auriemma, I mentioned this with Jay Bilas last hour. He came up with an idea, or he forwarded an idea yesterday, that these are obviously unique times. As you pointed out, you've never been home for this amount of time. That seniors should be allowed to have an extra year of eligibility next year. That this should not cost the end of a college career for somebody just because this pandemic has happened. What do you think about that idea, Coach?
I heard Gino. I actually had talked to him. I'm not disagreeing with that. The problem is, like, football got to play their whole year, or basketball got to play, 31 games and just didn't get to play in the tournament. But, you got to look at places like our golfers or our tennis players, or, they don't even get this, our baseball players. They don't even get to play in their senior year season one day. And I think there should be something done on a special occasion, because this is a unique. I mean, I've never heard of this. It's been not in the years I've been alive, and so it is unique. And I think there should be unique measures, because I look at a thing like, I think it was Shabazz Napier. They beat us in the Elite Eight in like 14 or 13 or something like that, and he went on to have an unbelievable tournament. They were a 7 seed. They won the national championship. He became a first-round pick, I believe, because of it, and people are going to lose opportunities both in high school and college. So I think there should be something done. I think Gino is maybe right on. What would be
we can go down this path right now, fully aware, knowing, and I will say this on our behalf as well, your behalf, that there are larger issues clearly that's going on in the world. Yes. But what would be the issues, nuts and bolts, from somebody from your position to make that happen, scholarship-wise, or commitments to playing time?
I think they'd have to give a few more scholarships. I don't think a ton. I don't think many people have 4 seniors. And if you do, maybe like in our case, maybe Cassius Winston tries to go to the NBA, doesn't come back, whatever. But I just think the opportunity for those kids that maybe, what if we're a tweener kid and had a chance, maybe, you to get to the NBA or to get to Major League Baseball or golf or tennis or whatever it is. Senior years sometimes make a big difference, and so I think it would be a couple scholarships, and there'd be some strange parts to it. But if we're totally looking at the student athlete like we always say we are, I think those guys that have paid their dues deserve a chance to finish in a way that they can finish.
So you're just going to spend the next couple of weeks at home? That's basically the plan? Just stay
I don't
indoors?
know. I mean, we're not allowed out,
right.
At least until May. And, I don't know. There's no way my wife's putting up with me for that long. And so I might, take up fishing or something and go to a pond. I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll be calling Mooch. I'll be calling you.
Anytime. Do you cook?
I'll be talking to a lot of people, and it sounds like I'm making fun of it. I'm sure not.
No, not at all. No, it's serious. This is serious business. I understand.
It is. And I want to make sure that we all stay healthy, you and your family, me and mine. but I also I do feel for those kids. I mean, I look at what Cassius went through this year, and there's a lot of those. So I hope they can come up with something, but I'm not sure that that's going to happen. It's
I hope
just
so.
going to be one of those times in life.
You're right, and all the people that were depending on the hourly wages to work the Big Ten tournament, to work the NCAA tournament, Tom. I mean, it is just it is quite something for everybody to try and figure this thing out. But we're all smart enough, I think, and we're all compassionate enough. You know, we all just open our heart. Yeah, we are. You know, right? And
I agree with you.
And that's the issue with this. We talk
Even
about
the Michigan and Michigan State people are going to work together on this one.
That's right.
How's that?
That's right. That just to show
and I really
the
do
unity.
believe that, and I think that's an honorable thing you said. And this is where our country's got to come together. But you're talking a lot of people, you know, working at pro arenas, working at baseball and this and tournaments and cities that are depending on those kind of things. There's going to be a lot of repercussions, but the best part will be if we get everybody healthy and keep everybody healthy, and we'll live to fight another day.
That's it. Tom, love you, man. Thanks for calling in. We may just keep checking back in on you. Okay.
You do that, and I appreciate it. And God bless you guys out there, and take care of your family.
You got it right back at you. That's Tom
See you,
Izzo.
Rich.
You got it right back at you. That's Tom Izzo, Michigan State's Tom Izzo, right here on the Rich Eisen Show. I mean, Cassius Winston, just a personal tragedy this year. Losing a sibling. My gosh, just trying to fight through it, play for him, play for his family, play for his love of the game, play for the love of his school. And this is the way he finishes. And he Instagrammed out from Cassius Winston 5, forever a Spartan dog, with the Spartan colors and hearts, and him walking off the floor in a number 5 jersey. And, you know, he has an opportunity in the association when that happens. But other seniors, I kind of like the idea, like, let's do it. And I didn't even, again, the more and more you spend on a subject, you start seeing, you know, from a different angle, and you think about it differently. These baseball players, right?
Gymnastics, golf,
all the spring
rowing,
sports.
all the spring sports, tennis.
Track and field. If they want to come back and do another year,
it seems like a no-brainer decision for the NCAA to make, which is why they'll screw it up. But
I know.
It just
He's
seems
saying
so
that.
easy. Just let it happen. Give these kids waivers. Let them compete next year.
844-204-RICH, number to dial. Dr. Sanjay Gupta at the top of the next hour. So many questions to ask him about all of this. Just knowledge is power. Getting the information from here to you. That's part of the reason why we are on the air here. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is calming. If you know more, that's better for everybody. Knowing everything, straight up, full-on knowledge, science, all of it. It makes us all better. Jeff Van Gundy will join us as well next hour to talk about the NBA and their decision. There's some news from the NFL. By the way, new league year right around the corner, as well as franchise tags around the corner. Players Association vote on the collective bargaining agreement. We will talk some NFL, and your phone calls at 844-204-RICH when we come back here on this radio station. Just, you know, accuse me of being stylish. That's fine. YouTube.com/Rich Eisen
We
Show.
love it.
Just
We
check
love
it out. Just check it out. And by it, I mean all of it.
Subscribe.
Next on the Rich Eisen Show.
DJ.
Back on YouTube. What do you got?
Well, I do have something on the back of the card. I wrote something. Before it was just this give a shout out to all our fans.
Is there
our friends. I don't like saying
wrong
fans.
to say you have one job to do as the social media grand maester of this show? Is to show up with more than just a card?
Well, actually, Rich, for the 9 of us left here, we all have more than one job to do. So
no.
We're all doing more than one job.
All right, and again, for those just joining us, we've finally come up with the name of our chat down the right part of our YouTube screen.
The wormhole.
The wormhole.
And the people in the chat
is the 454
the
crew.
454 crew.
And the 454, Don, do you have that ready on your computer to explain to people why it's the 454 crew? I don't mean to make you just go ahead and search real quick.
Hey, Don's TDing back there.
I know he's TDing, he's CPing, he's directing, he's doing all
Don's
of it.
using both hands and a foot to control everything back there.
I can't express to you what Don Bowie, the very normally calm and steadfast Don Bowie, just said to me in my ear. Wow.
Was it blue?
It was blue.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Don just worked blue in my ear. There it is. That's my
454.
My Uber rating. Can't wait till we come on the air next week and it's the 455 crew.
Oh, holler. Or it could be 453.
It will not be.
You never know. Here's a question from the 454 crew, Rich. December is 9 months away. Do you expect that we'll see a spike in childbirths in December?
Oh, my
due to all
goodness
this,
gracious.
1,000%.
People are supposed to be at home, supposed to be quarantined.
What else are you supposed to do at home?
Corona babies will be made.
Very opposite of social distancing.
Well, you got to stay close with those you can and distance yourself from the others.
I was wondering, since there's no sports on, which family member are you going to actually get to know now?
That's fantastic.
Your wife, your daughter,
your children,
son, your uncle, your grandmother.
People you never paid attention to before. Yeah. But yeah, 9 months now in December, we're going to see a huge upswing in childbirth.
Is this your thought, or you grabbed this from a 454?
This is the 454 crew.
Good to know what's on their mind.
Yeah. They're out there putting
Izzo's
in work.
wife is right. She's going to have no idea what to do with him. He's going to be around the house.
Yeah, no, honestly, he's never been home.
He's going to get booted from home.
Because
get out. Just go do something.
Even in the rare years in which they didn't make, have they ever, has Michigan State ever in the Izzo era not made the main tournament or the NIT? Like missed it all. I bet you that's never happened.
Michigan.
And even if he did miss it all, he'd be on the road recruiting to make sure that never happened again. Yeah. So this is
new
for him to
territory.
be home now for the next. He says that they can't go out until May to recruit. So he's probably never been home to try and figure this stuff out. Should I text him a few ideas on what to watch?
Yes.
Yeah, give him some binge watching suggestions.
What are you binging right now?
Right. Well, I mean,
like new
right
stuff.
now,
Things you haven't seen.
Susie and I just caught up on Breaking Bad. I'm back on the.
Better Call Saul.
Sorry. Yes. Yeah.
I watched last night. I'm still an episode behind, but Hank showed up. I was like, hey, all right.
I'm only on season 3 right now.
I'm back on the Homeland trail.
Okay.
Last couple seasons were
up?
last couple seasons were just so disappointing to me, but Susie's kept on it. So she watched this latest season first episode, and I'm like, this is actually now we're back.
So you're back in.
So I'm back on the Homeland trail. But this weekend, it's going to be all about just getting through it.
Yeah.
Survive and advance
so Tom
with the kiddos
Izzo's
at home.
first 2 seasons,
Right.
95, 96, 96, 97, did not make the tournament.
Okay.
He has every year since. So that's 21 straight years.
Right.
The Netflix, the streaming services must be loving this.
Through the roof.
Last year, Lena Headey came onto the show in January, right?
Right.
And as Brockman will tell you, I do interviews with the celebs, the guests in the green room. And Lena Headey, I'm going to admit, she gave me a funny feeling after I met her. And I had stopped watching Game of Thrones. So this time last year, I was on one of the most epic Game of Thrones binge watching runs, I think, of all time. And I'd come and I'd talk to Chris every day about, season 2 and 3. And you were like, yeah, that's great. I watched that 5 years ago.
All right. We're back on the radio when? When are we back on the air? In like 30 seconds. Thank you, TJ. Good job.
I'm here
done. Oh, stop it.
They're loving the crew, All
right, that's the crew. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. Dr. Sanjay Gupta and Jeff Van Gundy will phone into the show next hour. But right now, let's turn to the phone line, brought to you by Callaway's Maverick. How about that with our fans calling into the program? Let's go to Darby in Augusta, Georgia. What's up, Darby?
How are you?
What's going on in your mind?
Well, we just got word this morning that the tournament is going to be delayed.
Yep.
And everybody in Augusta has a different idea of what delayed means.
Go for it.
And, I mean, you can imagine the financial impact it has on our community. I mean, this is the biggest, this is the only major that doesn't move. This is how Augusta, I think it's something like 26% of our yearly revenue is that week.
Wow.
Which is crazy. So you got your ear to the ground, you're the guy. What's this postponement mean for us?
I got to be honest with you. I got to be honest with you, Darby, and maybe that's something I'm going to ask Dr. Gupta is how long he thinks this is going to last. But nobody knows. That's why the coronavirus is called the novel coronavirus. It's novel. It's new. It's new to our bodies. It's new to our health system. It's new to our globe. It's new in the way that everybody's still trying to learn what it is and how long it lasts and how it's transmitted and how it will react in different temperatures, and nobody knows. But all we know is the move that the Masters made, the move that they made in Augusta, Georgia today, is at Augusta National is exactly what we have to do right now. That is all we know.
I could not agree more. My wife actually has a compromised immune system illness, so it's more important to some folks than it is to others.
Damn straight.
But all it is the talk around here is you have so many people here that rent their homes out and then leave for vacation for the week. Our spring break for all our kids is that week.
Yep.
It's the big week, and I just was trying to get your input because a lot of people are saying it's not going to happen. And then some people are saying September. I just can't imagine a football weekend in the South and the Masters in the same weekend.
Well, you know what? It would be, if we can have that, thanks to the call, Darby, it would be amazing. And a way for us to all get back in the swing of things if we are able to do that. And, CBS would have quite a broadcast weekend.
Okay.
I don't know if, could Nance do the final round and then a game? Probably not. Can't do that.
That'd be tough.
That would be a tradition unlike any other for real. Let's go back to the phone lines. Greg in West Virginia, you're here on the Rich Eisen Show and also streaming live, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show here on the Callaway Maverick phone line. What's up, sir?
Hey, good afternoon, Rich. I love the show, and
Thanks, pal.
for all the updates. Hey, I'm actually, I've been a bread vendor for 25 years, and the grocery stores are just blown. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like this, but I'm having to take orders out for Saturday, Sunday, Monday already. People, in West Virginia, there's not been a confirmed case yet, which I'm sure there's something, but there hasn't been a confirmed case yet. They just announced all the schools will be out starting Monday for 3 weeks. But like I said, what's getting me is you're going in these stores and, you still have a lot of people going in the stores.
That's crazy. I know, and that's that's the issue here too. Although, thanks for the call, Greg. And in West Virginia, we're not supposed to be gathering more than 250 people at a time.
Right.
And there's more than 250 people on a line. And that's, again, the reason why this is happening, I think, is because there's not enough information out there. There's not enough testing being done. There's not enough information on how to get tested. There's not enough coordinated information. There's not enough trust. There's not enough of it. So what fills that void? Panic, fear, concern. Is concern appropriate? You bet it is. That's why we're socially distanced, right? Socially distancing. That's why we're doing that. Is fear appropriate? If that leads you to be concerned where you're not going to be concerned normally, then I'm saying maybe you should consider being concerned, but be calm. And we're all wondering, do we have to quarantine ourselves for 14 days? Do we have to do that? How do we do that? Are we allowed to go to the supermarket? Can we send someone to the supermarket? Can we send somebody to go get this stuff? You know, we don't know. We don't know the answers to a lot of these questions. Now, again, just to bring it all full circle, novel coronavirus, we're trying to figure all that out. But to get the information will calm us down. To get the testing will calm us down. I mean, the run at the stores here in Los Angeles is off the charts. I've never seen anything like it.
Me neither.
You went to get baby formula yesterday?
Yeah, I went to get baby formula at Target, and the shelves were empty, all paper products, Clorox, vitamins, bread, milk, all gone, empty.
Well, again, that's why we're having Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent, the man who labeled this coronavirus, this novel coronavirus, COVID-19, labeled it a pandemic on CNN 2 days before the World Health Organization labeled it as such. He will be joining us top of the next hour. Let's sneak one more phone call in right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Shane in Pennsylvania, you're here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Shane?
Hey, Rich, I just want to say, first of all, one of the best in the business. You've been handling this perfectly.
Thanks,
I
pal.
love the coverage you've been doing.
Thank
it's
you.
really making, I know, me feel a lot better. I'm sure
great.
a lot of other people. Definitely. Now, the thing that I'm looking to see is with the NFL, because obviously they're the big shoe to drop still. Like, what are they going to do? They're going to move things. You know what it is. I think at the minimum they have to, if they're going to keep the schedule the same, they have to bar all teams from traveling to visit free agents and free agents traveling to visit teams and hold physicals till everything clears over, and they can do that. If they can agree to contracts, great. If not, you have to push this back unless you can do it remotely completely.
It's a good point, Shane. I don't know. What was the news on the franchise tags, Chris, that you were saying?
Okay, so franchise tags, we have the Chargers just franchise tagged Hunter Henry.
Okay.
So that's a big deal. The Ravens designated Matthew Judon as their franchise player.
Oh, wow.
The Bears avoided having to use the tag, but did re-sign Danny Trevathan.
Okay. Well, it just gives you an idea, Shane, that the league year is going to start next Wednesday, and again, they'll just figure out it will just keep hearing pending physicals a lot. And hope that there's not some sort of, and thanks for the call, some sort of, I guess, wild west that another team can swoop in pending physical and break somebody's deal up. That a handshake and a pending physical is going to be a binding contract, pending physical. For real. Not like we're going to wait till the physical and somebody could swoop in and sign this player. Figure that out and we can all do this. And by the way, you want to talk about needing a diversion, talking about sports? Collective bargaining agreement announcement coming Saturday. We'll find out what that means for the franchise tags that have been delayed 2 days, deadline for which is a minute before noon Monday. At noon Monday, the 2-day window in which negotiations can happen for players starts. New league year on Wednesday. Brady, all of those folks up for grabs. We could use that as a country, as a diversion. I'll tell you that. Phone lines again brought to you by Callaway's Maverick, Callaway's Maverick driver. And I'll tell you what, the Maverick thinking has completely changed the way distance has been designed forever. Callaway used advanced artificial intelligence and new materials to unlock the next level of speed and forgiveness in the new Maverick driver. Get new distance today at CallawayGolf.com. Your phone calls in hour number 3, 844-204-RICH. Jeff Van Gundy to talk about the NBA's decision to suspend its season. Dr. Sanjay Gupta of CNN. Straight up information on everything going on. Next. Okay, before we get to hour number 3 of this show, one of my prized possessions that I brought into this studio when we started the show 5+ years ago was a Goodfellas poster that I bought at auction for a charity at a charity golf event years ago in the state of Florida. I think it was Warren Sapp's charity golf tournament years ago in Florida. Signed by Martin Scorsese, Joe Pesci, Robert De Niro, and our guest one day, Ray Liotta, came in and... oh, my gosh, take a look. You see stuff that's on the walls here when you walk in. There's a Goodfellas poster that I've had forever.
Really?
Yes.
Where'd you get it?
I got it at a charity auction.
Huh.
You've taken it off the wall.
Yeah, it's not my signature.
What do you mean it's not your signature?
This is not my signature, buddy.
down there.
You got ripped off.
No, I did not. You're kidding me.
I don't do a frou-frou L like that. And I don't cross it.
So that is
like
not
that.
yours, because it's signed by you, De Niro, and Pesci, and I spent at least 4 figures on this thing.
Get out of here.
Yes.
You're a sucker. I mean, I could sign it for real.
Yeah.
At least I could double it.
Do it. Do what you wish. If that is, do you know if that's Pesci's? Do you know if that's Joe's?
No, that's him.
No, I know that's him.
I know.
You sure?
No, we'll take care of it later, Rafi.
Yeah. What do you got? He's got an axe. Are you serious?
Do you want the real?
Yeah, sure. But I mean,
it's gonna hurt the.
Okay. You're.
Oh no, it doesn't. Oh, that's me.
You just smacked yourself
a heart attack. We'll do it later.
Okay.
It's not me.
Yeah, you just banged yourself. You just cracked the glass. So we could take it out. Smash the glass. I mean, you got that at this point.
It's not glass. It's not really glass.
It's like a plexi.
But we'll do it. We'll fix it.
Okay.
But you got ripped off.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
How are you feeling now, Rich? Knowing this
He's holding onto the axe.
All right, so ask me a question.
Oh my gosh. You put the axe down. This is fantastic. I don't even know where to go with this, because that has been one of my most prized possessions for some time, and you are the real McCoy saying that it's not your signature.
Yeah, no, it's not. I initialed it to make it.
Yes. Right for Gazy, and then we're done.
Yesterday on The Rich Eisen Show.
Jason Lockenfor from CBS Sports here on The Rich Eisen Show.
In terms of the league year, it may be business as usual, but it ain't really business as usual. The league is sending out vibes that nothing to see here. But, Rich, you know how that goes sometimes, right? It's a little bit of a trial balloon. We're not going to be able to consummate deals fully because we're not giving someone $55 million guaranteed until they pass a physical.
Interesting.
And we're not going to be conducting any physicals. And you know what I mean? We've told people to essentially stay home.
Another Rich Eisen Show is coming at you right now. Live from the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
The cascading effect means that you don't have a choice. At that point, you have to shut down the league and wait this thing out.
Civilization is not going to be brought to its knees by this. You will always remember the time where we weren't prepared as a globe, and we will love the return of these sports more than ever.
Heard nationwide, televised online at richeisenshow.com.
What will we talk about?
This is The Rich Eisen Show.
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Earlier on the show, Jay Bilas, Tom Izzo. Coming up, CNN Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta, ESPN NBA analyst Jeff Van Gundy. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Hour number 3 of the Rich Eisen Show is on the air. We all know what we're talking about. The sports world has stopped, essentially. The NFL, however, the new league year is right around the corner. Much of these free agent deals can be done by conference call, FaceTime, Skype, whatever you want to call it, Cisco, all of that stuff. So I think this is going to continue on as scripted. And the NFL will have our undivided attention, as always, and completely undivided for sports. It'll be divided as we try to figure out what's going on outside our doors. And on that front, Dr. Sanjay Gupta of CNN, the chief medical correspondent of CNN, is calling into our show shortly. Jeff Van Gundy will be joining us right after that. And your phone calls at 844-204-RICH, number to dial. And as a matter of fact, we'll take your phone calls right now as Dr. Gupta is calling in, as I mentioned, shortly. Let's go to Brian in California. You're here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Brian?
Hey, how you doing, Rich?
I'm fine, sir. What's going on in your mind?
I just want to commend you for what you're doing on the radio and spreading the information, putting people at ease. I know it's a really, really tough time in the world right now, and there's a lot of scared people out there. And for what you're doing, bringing Dr. Sanjay on, and I think it's really, really important, and it's helping a lot of people out. You know, my wife, she's been on edge because we have a 14-month-old daughter, so I've been trying to find as much information and stats to share with her to put her at ease. And I just urge everybody else to do the same. You know, educate yourself. You can't just go off of just what the media is putting out there. Like in life, not everything's black and white. There's a lot of gray areas. And if people do that, and that's all we can really do at this point. And I just take the necessary precautions. You know, practice good hygiene. I deliver Amazon packages, so I come in contact with a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of areas, you know, that could be infected. I don't know, but I just take the necessary steps, you know, have the hand sanitizer, wash my hands as much as possible, and just go from there. So I just want to commend you for that. And just on a funny note, your voice has been a part of my life since Madden 06 when you were on the My Career mode. I just want to put that out there.
Wow.
You've been a part of my life for a long time, Rich, and I just love your show, and I love hearing you, man.
I appreciate you saying that. And in that regard, keep your eyes and ears perched and peaked for Madden 2020. So keep an eye out for that.
All right.
All right. Thanks for the call, Brian. And that's some good advice for everybody to follow right there. Let's go to Joel in Tucson, Arizona. You're here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Joel?
Yeah. Hi, Rich. Thanks for taking my call.
Thanks for making it.
This is either an add-on or separate from Gino Auriema's recommendation about allowing seniors to extend their eligibility.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be not to downplay the performance of players and teams this year. Count this year's record as part of next year's record and have a cumulative 2-year record as a basis for determining conference winners and so on.
I like that. Thank you for the call, Joel. That's not a bad idea. Keep that record, and that's part of it. Thank you for the call. That's Joel in Tucson, Arizona. Pleased to have now right here on the Rich Eisen Show, CNN's chief medical correspondent, chief medical reporter, a neurosurgeon, and also we'll be talking about letting you know where you can get up-to-the-minute information, not only from him on television, but on his podcast. He is Dr. Sanjay Gupta here on the Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Dr. Gupta?
I'm doing well, Rich. Thanks for having me. Busy days, as you know.
I know that, and so I truly appreciate you giving us some time right here. I will just open the floor to you and say, what do you think people should know first and most about what is going on in this world, Dr. Gupta?
Well, you know, we as people have sort of heard over the last couple of months, you know, this new virus started spreading around the world. It's important to call it a new virus because it hadn't affected humans before, and there's a lot that we're still learning about it. I think most people who are exposed to this virus, which I do think is going to be most of the world, like the flu virus, are going to recover from this and not have significant problems. There are certain people who are being called vulnerable to this virus, people in their 70s and 80s, and people with 4 particular pre-existing conditions, which are heart disease, lung disease, diabetes, and hypertension. They're more at risk. And I think what I would like people to know is that when we talk about a virus, it's something that can spread from person to person, and we can actually do a lot to try and decrease that spread. And right now, probably more than I think I can remember in 20 years of doing this, Rich, we are very dependent on each other. How you behave will influence my health, and how I behave will influence your health. And so, if we're practicing healthy behaviors, many of which people have now heard countless times, I'm happy to talk about those as well. But if we practice healthy behaviors, you should think about it that you're doing it not just for yourself, but for the people around you, the people you love, and sort of the global community. We've gotten through pandemics before. We're going to get through this pandemic. We've seen really optimistic signs, not just in China. Everyone points to China, and the numbers in China have started to go way down, which is great. But also in places like Singapore and Hong Kong, where they've done a really good job. So, there's been some missteps here, and I'm sort of adopting the Fauci sort of stance on this, where right now I don't really have time to rehash the missteps because we have to have the pedal to the metal and everything's got to be moving forward. So I'd like to talk about the future, not the past. And there's things that we can do now going forward that I think can make a significant difference. Some of it's societal and some of it's individual. And I think, if we do those things, I think we're gonna be able to get through this.
Let's unpack that one step at a time. Again, Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN's chief medical correspondent, and he's got a new podcast out, Coronavirus Facts versus Fiction, that I suggest everybody check out right here on the Rich Eisen Show. Testing. Yeah. Let's talk about that because so many sports fans are hearing that Charles Barkley got a test, the entire Utah Jazz organization got a test. Where are we on testing, Dr. Gupta? What can you tell us about testing to potentially give everybody an idea where that's headed? You talk about the future.
You think about the public sector and the private sector. The public sector typically takes charge, at least the initial charge in situations like this, and for lots of different reasons, that fell short. Private sector is now really coming online, and ultimately, no matter what, in these situations, the private sector ends up being the big part of the scale up when it comes to these testing, and I'm talking about organizations like LabCorp and Quest. Mm-hmm. They just have the facilities, they have the resources, and the space, all of that to be able to really scale up. So they're coming online now. I think within the next several days, by mid next week. Everyone kept saying 2 weeks ago we were going to be there. We weren't, but I think by mid next week to end of next week, we're going to have gone from performing now not even maybe 100 tests a day to thousands of tests a day, and as Dr. Fauci has said, ultimately we're going to need millions and millions of tests because there's going to be that many people who do need to get tested because they're concerned, but also to try and get a better idea of just what this is looking like, how widespread this is. We don't have eyes on this, mm-hmm. as Dr. Redfield said. He uses these hunting metaphors, but we don't have eyes on this right now, and we need that to best dictate some of the strategies going forward. You're hearing about a lot of strategies, and the reason I think some of them seem a little scattershot right now is because we don't really know exactly where this virus is spreading most robustly. We need to know that.
Well, we had a fan of the show call in before and wanted me to ask you in regards to social distancing, which you pointed out. We're all practicing hygiene, that my hygiene practices affects you and vice versa, Dr. Gupta. How can we all get on the same page? I'm seeing all these, we're all seeing all these sporting events get canceled. And then I saw a Post Malone concert in Denver have 20,000 people in Denver last night. How do we all get on the same page that way?
Well, I think, look, unlike China, this is not an autocratic country. In China, they basically said, we're going to shut down very large areas of the country, or very large populations, I should say, 60 million people, in the Hubei province. That's just not something that we're likely to see in America. But having said that, the president today is going to likely be declaring a national emergency. There hasn't been these triggers, I think, Rich, to say, okay, now at this point, here's the point at which you shut down schools. Here's the point where you prevent mass gatherings. Here's the point where large corporations have to say their employees all work from home. It's been sort of ad hoc. Governor Cuomo declared a containment area. Go back to President Trump when the passengers came out of China and there was 195 people in quarantine. It was a significant move. We hadn't had quarantines in this country in 60 years since smallpox. People may not realize that. Some of what's happening right now are things that haven't happened in a very, very long time. Some of them have never happened before. So I think, to answer your question, I think as part of the national emergency, there may be a greater uniformity, if you will, to some of these things. Concerts, it may come down that there's a proclamation that there cannot be mass gatherings anymore of a certain size. And I'm happy to explain what the rationale on that is.
Please.
But, in part it is obviously health, right? You got a virus. If you got a bunch of people who are together that can't distance themselves at least 3 to 6 feet, that virus is likely to spread. So what all these things are fundamentally about is trying to break the cycle of transmission. If you can break the cycle of transmission, the virus can't go from host to host. Right now we are the hosts, humans. And so if you can break that cycle of transmission, with time, the virus starts to peter out and, can't find hosts. And that's how we've helped address pandemics in the past, including SARS, which is another coronavirus. So that's part of the goal. But there's another part to it as well, and I think this might actually be more relevant to people.
Sure.
And that is that if somebody, let's say you're at one of these mass gatherings or concert or whatever it might be, and somebody subsequently in a day or two tests positive, what's going to happen? The public health department at that point is going to want to do what's called contact tracing and figure out who are all the people this person who's tested positive may come in contact with. And they're going to go find those people and likely tell those people they now have to quarantine themselves for 14 days. So it's obviously medical concern is the primary concern, but the idea of the social disruption around this, not to mention the amount of efforts it takes by the public health community to then go find all those people, it's a significant effort to do that, is significant as well. It's something that in the middle of a pandemic like this, you'd rather not have your public health people trying to find all the people who attended a particular concert and sat in such and such section because they may be potentially infected. And by the way, they may not all live in that city. People may have come from other cities. People may have come from other states. They're going back to their home states. Who were they in contact with over there? You can see what an effort it is. A mass gathering like that in the midst of a pandemic is both a medical and social sort of concern.
A couple more minutes left with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN chief medical correspondent here on the Rich Eisen Show. So many people listening to us and watching us right now, Dr. Gupta, are potentially in smaller communities in the United States of America that are grappling with the issue of, do we let the kids' leagues finish up their leagues? Do we let seniors go through their entire high school season preparing for baseball, preparing for spring sports, and now we just cancel them? But you know what? Nobody's sick in this town. Let's go ahead and do it. What do you suggest to those people right now, Dr. Gupta?
Well, this is moving so fast. I don't think I've covered a story ever that's moving this fast. So I mean, literally, within the next hour. By 3 o'clock, right after the president's speech, I think we're going to have a better idea. First of all, if those are even decisions that we can make, because it may come down as part of a national emergency, from the national emergency to all these school districts in terms of what they have to do, and then some of these questions are going to be answered. I do want to say one thing about the school closings in particular, and athletics though, and that is that. This is not the flu. And what I mean by that is that, when you look at the benefit of school closings in the past, much of the benefit of that was based on models of the flu. Kids get the flu. They can spread the flu, and they spread the flu a lot, little kids do in particular, but also, older kids do. With this infection, and we don't really know why, kids aren't really getting sick from this, and they're not, really getting infected from this. While they can spread it, it's not likely. So they could be carrying the virus in their bodies without any symptoms. They could still spread it, but it's not likely. So I'm not sure the rationale for school closings ultimately will be thought to be that beneficial. I think we're still grappling through this, and I think that's going to affect everything. All the other questions you're asking about, obviously sports leagues, all the extracurricular activities, all of that. Look, we're going through this. I just got the phone with my wife. We're going through this as well. Kids get pulled out of school. My wife's now figuring out about her work, and that's another. I mean, a lot of the healthcare staff in the country, they have kids. So you're going to start pulling healthcare workers out of the clinics and hospitals at a time when you really need them because of these school closings. You really got to look at the ripple effect and figure out if it's worth it. Everything in life is a risk-reward relationship, and that's true here as well. We know what the cost in so many ways of mass school closings are. We tried this during H1N1. There were 700 schools closed around the country, 50 in New York City alone. And in retrospect, even though that was a flu virus, it wasn't even clear what the benefit was exactly. Given that this doesn't really affect kids as much, I think that question is going to really need to be addressed in the days to come. Not weeks, but days to come.
Yeah, that's what I want to just finish up with you. Last one for you. I'm going to combine two and for you, and then you can answer how you wish with Dr. Sanjay Gupta. So many fans hearing again, Masters postponed. This season for the NBA is suspended. How long do you think this will last, should last? And you mentioned earlier prevention. What would you suggest to people to do on a daily basis to try and help in the prevention of the spread of this virus, Dr. Gupta?
Sure. Yeah, well, with regard to the first question, is there light at the end of the tunnel here, right? I think everyone's asking that question, or is this the new normal? I don't think it's a new normal. We don't, I want to be humble here because it's a new virus, and so no one knows for sure. And anyone who tells you they know for sure, they can't, because we just don't. But previous coronaviruses have had what's called a seasonality. So they're more robust in certain seasons versus others, and those seasons where they tend to be circulating more is colder weather. SARS, the peak was sort of late March, early April. I keep bringing up SARS because that was also a coronavirus, so a similar virus. And I think that there's a likelihood of that happening here. This is behaving in some ways like flu, and flu does the same thing. It has this seasonality to it. That does mean that, as the warmer weather comes, the numbers go down. As the weather gets cooler, the virus is likely to start, reemerging in bigger numbers. But keep in mind, as this virus is circulating right now, people who are exposed to it may develop some immunity. So if it does come back next season, we may have a certain number of people in the country who are more protected from it, and that provides what's called a herd immunity. So even for people who didn't get exposed, they get buffered, if you will, by the people who were protected from the previous season. With regard to protection, and I sometimes it feels silly talking about these basic measures in the middle of a pandemic.
Yes.
But this is respiratory illness. So for the most part, through coughs and sneezes, respiratory droplets are released into the air. They travel, typically no more than 6 feet. They can travel further, but that's, sort of the average. And they can stay in the air for a little bit and transmit that way, or they fall to ground or to surfaces. So if you think about that, you just imagine now those viral particles inside the respiratory droplets and how they would transmit from a person who's infected to someone else, you get a pretty clear idea of how to protect yourself. If you're sick, don't go out. If you see someone who's sick, don't go by them. We talk about washing hands because we're constantly touching things, even without thinking about it. I could tell you don't touch things. That's not practical. But if you wash your hands well and you disinfect surfaces, you're a lot less likely to get, to have the virus transmitted to you by yourself, by touching your eyes, your nose, or your mouth. Those basic things really apply. And then I think, again, I've been talking to my parents every day. They're in their late 70s. They live in Florida, and they're hearing all the news coverage. 80% of people are going to be fine, and what are they thinking? what about us, right? So we are potentially the healthy people who don't have any symptoms. We could still put the vulnerable people at risk. So if I visit my parents, I want to make sure that consider myself as potentially someone who could transmit the virus to them. So all the basic hygienic principles that I told you about, I would absolutely be just 100% diligent about it. It's not a side thought. It's a forethought, always, right now. It should be. And so I think the idea that we can all do a lot to sort of create a wall of protection around the vulnerable is really important for the next several weeks. We should always do that, but for the next several weeks in particular. So again, how I behave greatly affects their health, and so we all have to take that very seriously.
Dr. Gupta, really appreciate the time. Really enjoy your work, and go Blue.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I'm going to miss that this season, but, I think it's the right call.
No, it is the right call, right? The number of people that I hear like, hey, this is an overreaction. This is the right call in order to do what you say needs to be done to flatten the curve and make sure the healthcare system is not overwhelmed, correct?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay. I will be one of the many listening to your podcast, Coronavirus Facts versus Fiction. Thanks for the call, Dr. Sanjay Gupta.
Anytime, Rich. Thanks for having me.
I'll be reaching out again. You bet. That's Dr. Sanjay Gupta, Chief Medical Correspondent of CNN. Take a break. Jeff Van Gundy next here on The Rich Eisen Show. The Callaway Odyssey putter, when you're going to get out there and feel comfortable getting out there and want to start playing, I'll tell you what, this baby, the Callaway Odyssey putter is amazing. Most golfers aren't lined up correctly. We all know that, right? You're not lined up correctly. Fortunately, the brilliant minds at Odyssey continue to set the standard for making sure that the craftsman has the proper tool in his or her hands. With breakthrough innovations like the new triple track putters, 3 distinct alignment lines centered on the head of every triple track putter, which makes alignment, also known as aiming, much easier. Same visual principle to land jets on aircraft carriers. So you kind of know that works. Number 1 putter in golf. Jeff Van Gundy back to talk about the NBA and more. 844-204-RICH, number to dial here on The Rich Eisen Show. Lots to unpack there, huh? I wanted to keep him much longer, but the guy's getting ready in 38 minutes time for the presidential address, and he's expecting to hear that this is going to be a national emergency called, which unlocks billions of dollars, apparently $40 billion from FEMA,
right?
Which will now treat this like a national emergency, which it is, right?
Without question.
And hopefully this lets everybody understand from top down, no large gatherings. You just heard that. Whoever went to the Post Malone concert last night, I beg you to self-quarantine for at least the next week. Just see I know it's supposed to be 14 days. You have no idea what you just went to last night. You have no idea who was sitting behind you. You have no idea who was in front of you. You have no idea if they coughed, they touched a railing. I mean, come on. I don't think this is, right, overhype. You tell me.
I can't believe people would go in the first place.
Right? I mean, after everything that's going on right now, what do you think? That the NCAA is canceling March Madness just to look good? You think? You think that the Masters decides to postpone because they want to look good? They don't want to look bad? Be bad publicity to hold it right now. No, they're being told and they're learning that if you bring large amounts of people in one spot, you're going to spread this damn thing. Holy crap. I could not believe that. And do I go on the air today and talk about it? I'm like, yeah, we do. Because they affect the people in Denver who might be getting on a plane and landing in Los Angeles.
Or anywhere.
And until everybody gets on the same page and we can all calm down, people are going to be running out to the store and make sure they can wipe their ass for the next 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, honestly. Our buddy Kara Henderson Sneed tweeted out that toilet paper's gone, but tissues are all over the place.
Tissues are still fine. People, they're the same thing.
What do we do?
What do we do?
It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense.
I was a little disappointed, though, Rich, with you at the end of that interview with Dr. Gupta. You didn't kick it to me to ask him his Uber rating. I'm a little.
Yeah, I don't think that was. I
Like,
don't think that was appropriate.
just add a little.
You don't have to ask everybody their
levity to
Uber
the
rating. No, I mean,
situation.
look.
I know.
Like I said, he's got to go literally in 30. I'm sure he's going to be on the air. Explain to us what this means, Dr. Gupta. Like, we're probably the last audience he's informing other than CNN's before this big moment.
I mean, you did sneak in a Go Blue. So
Of
it's like
course
you
I
could
did.
have,
Come on now.
Hit the Uber.
Little
rating.
fine. That's a little different. A little different. But he's like, all right, I don't want to harp on it. Look, everybody just, it's all, I forget, it was our friend from Portland, Oregon who called in, like, ask him, how do we all get on the same page here?
Yes.
And I guess what he's saying is we're going to hear at the top of the next hour from the President of the United States, here are the rules because I'm declaring this over. And we can all get to the business of getting through this. He sounded like, he said it was going to be a matter of days, if not weeks. And I found it interesting. He said that school closures may not be particularly necessary and effective.
Was
because of kids.
Head scratching on that as well, but he would know, obviously.
Right?
I'm going to repost that full interview as soon as it's available on our YouTube page.
Okay, let's take a break. Jeff Van Gundy, one of our favorites, when we come back here on The Rich Eisen Show. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. We were a little late to get to him because Dr. Sanjay Gupta was giving us as much information as we possibly can have on what's going on in the world. And he's one of our favorite from the world of hoops and the NBA, ABC on ESPN, and NBA analyst, or ESPN on ABC, NBA analyst. Jeff Van Gundy. How are you, Jeff?
Yeah, good. Did you say Dr. Gupta said closing schools doesn't help?
Well, he said that they may learn, again, that kids can pass the virus on, but it's not likely, is what he said. It might not be as beneficial as we've learned, is what he said, and we'll know in a matter of days, not weeks, is what he said.
Wow, that's interesting because my daughter is in high school, and they shut down today. They have spring break next week. And then they are going to virtual learning the following week. So they're going to be off, about 17 days from the campus. And, they don't have any reported cases or anything.
Right.
But, so I'm just interested in, what that looks like and how much it can help.
Exactly. And we're all starving for information, which is why, we put Dr. Gupta on the air, and also just trying to get as knowledgeable as possible because this changes so fast, so quickly. I honestly thought when the Golden State Warriors, to follow their local rule that they could not have fans in their arena, I thought, okay, that's the way the NBA is going to go. And then Rudy Gobert shows up to an arena and tests positive for coronavirus, and then they got to stop another game because an official that did one of his games the night before is in New Orleans. I thought, wow, now my eyes are totally open to this thing. I wonder what you thought in Sacramento. Pardon me that they canceled that game. My eyes were totally open. I wonder what you thought.
Yeah, so I went to see my parents in Florida, and on Tuesday we were at a spring training game. And on by Thursday when I came home, there's no more sports in America. I mean, that's how quickly it changed. And, everything from watching a conference tournament game with them on one night to a game being stopped in the Big East tournament at halftime. It's just, it's mind-blowing how quickly everything changed.
And so clearly the NBA made the right decision right? I mean, how do you think coaches and everybody else were thinking about it throughout the week? Can you walk me through whatever you knew or
Well, I think, first of all, I think, everybody uses the term perspective so often, but I think most coaches, most players, front office owners, I think they do have it in the right perspective. It's how they earn a living. It's a job they like to do, but it pales in comparison to bigger societal issues like a pandemic. So the coaches I've talked to, they have no doubt that the NBA did the right thing, and they also have no doubt that this could change and go on for even longer. So I don't think they're feeling bad for themselves. I think most people in sport right now, and I think most Americans are, what can we do to help?
And that's where Kevin Love stepped in a manner that obviously we also heard Mark Cuban step in to make whole best they can all the arena workers who work on hourly wages and to make sure that they are made whole while this stoppage of play continues, Jeff.
Yeah, it's very it's such a challenging situation. So, players have their own contractual issues that owners could invoke due to a pandemic, right? But the real people, or the people that are really hurting, are, so many of the people that have to report to work to get paid. And it's not just in the sports arena; it's in the construction area. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So, yeah, you feel for these people because they need this money. They need this check to live check to check, week to week, month to month. And, Kevin Love, very magnanimous, as was Mark Cuban. And I think more and more owners will try to do the right thing. It's to what extent? How far are they willing to go and for how long? Because while we say 30 days in the NBA right now, I think that's going to be an evaluation period. It could go on a lot longer. The season, there's no guarantees that we come back. And so for this season. So I think, I think a lot of people are going to try to do a lot of right things, but there's still so much to be figured out and so much unknown to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, this is a total unknown. I mean, I could sit here and ask you if you've ever been anything through anything like this. We haven't. There's been nothing like this. So there's no playbook. There's no rule book. There's just, I guess, in a way, fumbling for the light switch. And I just thought it was honestly, the Rudy Gobert testing was, for me, the most shocking moment. And it's not because it's somebody, famous or whatever, since Tom Hanks announced he had gotten it before. But it really was, a moment for me where I realized how this can cascade so fast. And I think it's dawning on Gobert, who Instagrammed out an apology today. And it looks like Adam Silver is going to reach out to make him or facilitate him being part of a public service announcement about taking this seriously. That's what it looks like, Jeff.
Right. And so what was stark to me was the doctor of Oklahoma City running out onto the court just minutes before a game started, right? I mean, I think having people in the arena and right before tip-off, they decide to postpone due to this. And listen, Gobert acknowledged his reckless acts, but we have to remember how young these people are and how immune they believe themselves to be to some of these things. And yeah, he should have and could have done it better, but he can help to educate now. And I thought his apology through social media struck just the right tone. He didn't try to, dodge his behavior or how cavalier he was with the whole situation, and wants to help. And I think Adam Silver can really, I think he can help a lot of people by having Gobert follow through with a PSA. And I also think, I'm interested in how Donovan Mitchell feels and how quickly he can get by maybe Gobert's recklessness putting him in jeopardy and his teammates in jeopardy. I think that's another interesting sort of subplot to the whole thing. But I think Gobert took the right first step by just acknowledging what he did wrong. There was no excuse for it, and he wants to help in any way possible going forward.
Before I let you go, Jeff Van Gundy, I'll ask you a question I asked both Jay Bilas in hour number 1 and Michigan State's Tom Izzo in hour number 2. I'd love to get the perspective of somebody from the next level. The idea that Gino Auriemma threw out yesterday upon the announcement that the NCAA tournaments for men and women's basketball had been canceled, that seniors should get an extra year. The seniors right now, that their senior years should not end like this. If they so choose to get another year of eligibility, I wonder what you think of that idea.
I think it's a reaction in the immediate aftermath of a disappointing thing that occurs in these young people's lives. And I feel for all the college athletes. It's not just the Division I athletes. It's the Division III and II tournaments were going on. You have spring sports that have just gotten off the ground that now they won't be able to compete in their senior year. And while I understand the idea behind giving them an extra year, and I wouldn't be opposed to it, I also think one of the things you're constantly trying to teach young people is stuff happens in life, and bad stuff happens in life. And it's not what happens to you, it's what you do next. And so if the NCAA ultimately decides not to do giving the extra year of eligibility back to these, I think spring sports is different than winter sports because they didn't actually compete get a chance to compete in the sport. I would have no problem with the NCAA saying, no, it's a bad thing. We feel badly, but you need to move on and deal with it. And for the spring sports, I understand why there may be an exception granted for that because they didn't get a chance to even play their regular season.
Jeff, thanks for the time. Stay safe, be healthy, and I hope we get you back on in April, and we'll talk about an NBA starting back up.
And basketball. Yeah, let's hope so.
I look forward to it. I appreciate the time, though, today. Thanks for the call. Be well. Your family,
you got
too.
It, Rich. Take care.
You bet. That's Jeff Van Gundy here on The Rich Eisen Show. We'll take your phone calls when we come back. Unpack a little bit about what Dr. Gupta said at the top of the hour. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. I would say he's a bold-faced name player, former first-round pick, cut in the NFL. I'm telling you, man, the NFL new league year is coming next Wednesday, and I think it's going down. Even though the concept of being able to face-to-face sign people, get them medically cleared in order to make a contract ironclad, that may be somehow, somebody figure it out. Handshake agreement pending physical is as if it's done. Even if it takes a week to 2 weeks for that physical to take place, nobody can swoop in if player and team say, this is it. How about that? A phone call handshake. Worst fantasy team name of all time. Phone call handshake. I don't even know what that avatar looks like. At any rate, that's next here on The Rich Eisen Show here on this crazy Friday. He's one of my good friends in the business, and I had no intention of having him caught up in some of our crazy silliness. But when Ed Hockley announced that he was retiring, I created. Remember, I sat here on the computer and I just banged it out. I just banged it out in like 20 minutes.
What are you doing over there?
I'm writing a fake. Right, I'm writing a fake Ed Hockley retirement letter, and I popped it out there.
And then we posted it.
We posted it, and Van Pelt reported it as fact. Take a look. I thought to myself, okay, in the few minutes that are here, let me write an Ed Hockley retirement letter and read it out on the air. We then posted on the Rich Eisen Show feed, exclusive. The number of people that retweeted it and said they thought it was real is alarming. It's the only way to put it. So, God bless him. You know how much we love SVP. Is Scott on the line now? Is Scott there?
Yeah.
You thought it was real.
Well, I mean, as you said, you are a guy that has a reputation. You work at the NFL Network. You got sources. And when it was brought up to me in our meeting, hey, did you see the letter Hockley wrote? And I thought, well, that's funny. And then later, as I'm trying to write this script, I'm not finding it anywhere on like Google searches or whatever. But I'm like, where'd y'all see that? And then the producer that had it's like, oh, it's on Eisen's feed. So I read your feed, and I'm like, there it is. I see the quotes that work, and I just I just slam it in there on the script and read it on television. Fake news. Fake news.
Hashtag, yes. Hashtag fake news.
I'm mortified. Apologies to Mr. Hockley.
I'm sorry. We did not.
No.
That was not our intent.
Yeah, we didn't know it was going to happen like that.
That's entirely on us for not vetting, and it's been an alarm bell that goes off to me that I'm not able to find this anywhere but there. But again, and this is where I'll turn it and point at you and blame you, Rich Eisen. When you're a source of information and you got stuff no one else got, you think, yeah, sure, you got the Hockley retirement letter.
And it's, I guess, believable that he's got his own stationery with himself on it, where there's a watermark of him as a ref.
As believable as it is that he's going to go sort out the lactic acid with a stretching regimen.
Vigorous regimen. Vigorous regimen.
I beg your pardon. Yeah,
You're the best, man. You're the best. I'm sorry.
You're the worst. Don't spoof me like that.
Oh, man. That was so much fun.
Too funny, man.
Whose idea was it to put the watermark on it? I forget. That was one of our
like
cracks.
Somebody
that
at
was
LABC,
the Los Angeles Broadcasting Center.
Kind of prettied that up.
So here, can I read the letter?
Hockley watermark.
To whom it may concern, football fans everywhere, and ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I thought that was a dead giveaway to start, right?
Yeah, I mean, he's a lawyer, so yes.
Many of you have known me as an official for the National Football League for the last 28 years, but I started refereeing football at the high school level in 1973, and that's when I first discovered my love of combining my favorite sport with my other favorite endeavor, explaining things in 3 long sentences that can really be explained in 1 short one. Again, I thought that was a total dead giveaway.
Great.
So it's been a long time of reffing and talking and reffing. So after further review, again, I thought that's another giveaway. I've decided to finally no longer get up every day and do what I do in order to put food on the table, keep a roof over my family, and keep doing what I love to do every day. In other words, I've decided to retire. Again, that's explaining in 3 long sentences what you can do in 1.
I can do in 1, exactly.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to head to the gym, make sure that my body remains the temple that it is, and of course, make sure the lactic acid buildup gets addressed by a vigorous regimen of stretching. In other words, I'm off to do curls. Again, something that you could say in 3 sentences going to be explained in 1.
And very obviously a joke, because Ed's known for big arms.
Yours in retirement, Ed Hockley, Esquire.
I mean,
that's a total dead giveaway.
Esquire was a nice touch.
All of it filled with giveaway nest eggs. What? Easter eggs? Is that what it is? Breadcrumbs.
Hockley giveaway Easter eggs.
I don't even know.
I don't know. Not going to be dystopian.
Clues, breadcrumbs. I'm particularly proud of that moment.
That was a big moment for
Trading off my I guess, reputation of being a trustworthy source of NFL news.
SVP assumed you were a credible source.
God, that's so funny. Did I misspelled refereeing? Where is that?
Uh-oh.
Oh, I put in referring. Well, I didn't type this up.
By the way, almost 2 years ago to the day.
Oh, my gosh. Almost 2 years.
Wow.
People are going to wonder, what are we talking about? I've got more fake retirement letters left in my quiver. I'll bang those out in 2 seconds. All right, we're back with more in a moment. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. All right, before we hit the phone line, some NFL news. Xavier Rhodes has been cut by the Minnesota Vikings. How about that?
Indeed.
Again, the new league year is coming. I think it's absolutely happening. It will not get delayed. The NFL, however, did just send out to all clubs prohibiting in-person pre-draft visits involving draft-eligible players effective at the end of this business day until further notice. The following is prohibited. I've got the letter right here. Any draft-eligible player traveling to a club facility or other location to meet with club personnel, including Blesto or NFS scouts, traveling to any location, including a college campus, to visit with a draft-eligible player. Clubs are reminded that they are permitted to conduct interviews via telephone or video conferences through the day prior to the draft. Any telephone or video conference must be reported to the player personnel department upon completion, along with the call, participants, date and time of the call, and total length of the call. The following new restrictions are applicable to any telephone or video conference. Clubs can schedule no more than 3 of those with any individual eligible player per week. Each telephone or video conference can no longer last no longer than an hour. Cannot be conducted at a time that interferes with the player's school schedule. There's that. And the NCAA has issued a statement on the Gino Auriemma idea of issuing an extra year of eligibility for seniors that we talked about with Bilas, Izzo, and Jeff Van Gundy, right? Is what you said, Chris?
So, yeah, they have a statement that said council leadership agreed that eligibility relief is appropriate for all Division I student athletes who participated in spring sports. Details of eligibility relief will be finalized at a later time. Additional issues with rules must be addressed, and appropriate governance bodies will work through those in the coming days and weeks.
Okay, let's go to Josh in Dallas, Texas. What's up, Josh?
Actually, just right on the heels of that statement, in fact, I think it's interesting. I think, at least on a day like today or yesterday, it seems like at least a glimmer of hope in the right direction, if you would agree. But I'm curious to see long-term what the effects of that are, what the trickle-down effect is in terms of impact on scholarships, recruitment, things like that. Where do you see that moving with this kind of an adjustment?
That's a great question, man. And thanks for the call, but we're in a brave new world. I have no idea.
Yeah,
I wish
unprecedented.
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you heard that Izzo said he's off the road until May, all of April. We don't know. We don't know. And again, Dr. Sanjay Gupta says that we should know within a matter of days, not weeks, if school closings for smaller kids is an effective method. Interesting. Now, the reason why is he says that based on the science and the studies, that kids can transmit it, but it's not likely, is what he said, and that they're learning more each day. And I'll tell you what, if it is determined by the health community writ large, based on the studying, that keeping elementary schools open is fine, well, I'll tell you what. I mean, do you know how that would help so many people in terms of childcare? My gosh, that would be monumental. So hopefully there are some good signs, as we also have to be mindful of the signposts to practice great hygiene and stay away from large crowds, for crying out loud. Let's go to Manny in El Paso, Texas. What's up, Manny?
Mr. Eisen, always a pleasure to talk to you, sir.
Right back at you.
And all the crew there.
What's up,
First
Manny?
of all, sir, I think Warren Sapp owes you some money for that Goodfellas poster that you had.
That's all right.
Second of all, I'm so glad that NASCAR decided to cancel the race. It's not about rating scrap right now. It's about families being safe. This isn't 1979. The country isn't snowed in. This is a whole different can of worms. But if you want a diversion, sir, I got a good idea. You, Brockman, Coach Izzo, Coach Mooch, your phone screener, you need to all get with Del Tufo and go to his boat and do a live show from there.
Oh.
And comment on who catches the biggest fish right there.
Okay.
He's always posting his pics and stuff, dolphin watching and so forth. I think this would be a great idea for the show. That's just my 2 cents. I'll give you all the credit for it.
Appreciate that.
But again, I want to thank you guys for being on the air, and we miss you on TV, but I got you on the radio and on my phone. So,
I appreciate that, and
Mr. Eisen, have a good weekend.
You got it. And you can stream us every day. Watch us every day. We're sitting in the same studio. I'm wearing the same sweater combination with my shirt. I still look as damn fine as I possibly can on our YouTube feed, youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show.
Great idea by Manny. Love it. Here's the problem with that, though.
Yeah.
Mike is the only person that can fit on his boat.
I've never been on zero rings.
Not a big boat. Not a big boat.
Eddie in Rockland, New York. What's up, buddy? How are you, Eddie?
Hey, Big. What's happening, Rich?
What's going on, man?
I got something that I do. I'm a plumber out of Rockland County, and I deal with bacteria and stuff all the time. And what we do is we just take cotton gloves and we spray a mist of alcohol on it. So whenever we're touching something, we're killing it. So if everybody wore just cotton gloves, winter gloves, and sprayed a mist of alcohol on it, whenever they're going out and whatever they're touching, they'll be killing the virus instead of spreading it.
I appreciate the call, Eddie. Thanks. I'm listening to you. And we appreciate you giving some pointers on that. Thank you.
I like that idea.
It's Eddie the plumber.
A few more NFL things, Rich. The Broncos have tagged Justin Simmons.
Okay.
Bengals release Cordy Glenn. Chargers release Thomas Davis and Brandon Mebane. Titans release Delaney Walker and Ryan Suckup.
Wow.
And in addition to Xavier Rhodes, the Vikings released Linval Joseph.
Okay. I have no idea what the weekend is going to bring. Zero. None. We are all planning on being here Monday, God willing, and our health and safety and all of it. So we're planning on being here Monday. I would tell you the guests that we have planned already for next week, but I have no idea if they're going to be here either. We've already got some stuff planned for next week based on, looking over the steering wheel. All I will say is this. Reiterating what Dr. Sanjay Gupta said at the top of this hour, and I want to thank him and Jay Bilas and Tom Izzo and Jeff Van Gundy for joining this program. Wash your hands. At least 20 seconds. Soap and water is the greatest killer of COVID-19 that has been proven scientifically. Wash your hands a lot. It's the first thing I'm going to do as soon as we're done with this show. Absolutely. Wash your hands with warm or hot water and soap. It's dynamite. Sneeze into your elbow, right? And practice social distancing. Do the right thing. Stay away from large crowds. Certainly tell your parents to do that too. Let's be smart about it, calm about it, and hopefully next week will be better. Ramping up of tests make us all feel better that we know whatever we've got might not be it or it is it. Or if it is it, you just stay home. And that the government does the right thing in ramping this stuff up and make sure people who have to stay home because they're sick or have to stay home to take care of a sick parent or sick child or sick member of their family, they are made whole if they are working their job. So they don't go to work sick. If we do that collectively and all work together and band together with empathy and love and sympathy, even though we are socially distancing ourselves from one another, we'll get through this. My 2 cents.
Amen, brother.
Have fun this weekend with Cage.
Can't wait.
I will be caged with my 3 children.
Not a CSI episode.
And my wife. No, yeah, right. Right. So for all of us here at the Rich Eisen Show, be happy, be safe, be hardy, and be vigilant, but be calm. And we'll see you on Monday's show right here on this radio station and youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show.